All right, if am I live? Can you hear me? Am I live? Okay. Board members, please make it back. Board members, we're going to start with our divided motion. Oh, who goes first in a divided motion? Motion is you are you bring it back, are you? You're gonna bring it back? You're gonna bring it back? I'm just trying to make sure she's not on the prevailing side and bring it back. But I don't want to bring it back. Okay.
So probably would just, we're not gonna bring it back. Well, no, it's just a matter of changing it after the fact. Is the problem.
Well, I thought she was changing to. All right, board members, so now we have a divided motion. We're going to talk about motion number 1. And motion number 1 says to still strike lines 82 to 86 and add D, recognizing the constitutionally protected rights of all students. Member Klein, do you have a comment? Or we'll go right to voting. No other comments, so we go right to voting. That's okay. We started and they had plenty of time. Do we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? We've got 8. We've got a quorum. All right, Member Klein, really and truly, were you speaking to this motion? Okay, then we are almost ready to vote. We are yes, now we're considering the motion number 1. Are you putting that in, Kelsey?
Yep.
Okay.
It doesn't like the word all. So seriously, Kitty, there you go.
All right, voting is open for motion number 1.
Member Green is a yes.
Thank you, Member Green.
Hey, why is mine? Oh, there we go.
Did you get Member Green's?
Tap on it.
Thank you.
20,
We have 9 votes.
10, 11, 12.
Just tap the screen if it doesn't have the voting screen. 13 with Chair Moss, that's 14. Are we missing another person?
Just Chair
Oh,
Moss.
now 14. That passes 13 to 1, the no vote being Member Reel. All right, now we're considering motion number 2 to still strike lines 82 to 86 and add E, avoiding activist or provocative treatment of topics while allowing students to discuss in a courteous and respectful manner whether those opinions are in the majority or minority. Ooh, sorry about that.
You got a million
I've
lights
got
on.
some lights, so I don't know who was first. Member,
Klein. I have Klein, Vargas, Hymas.
yes. Okay. Member Klein, are you speaking to this motion?
Sure.
You don't have to.
Well, I did a little bit before, but again, the idea is to allow discussions to happen in a way that is respectful and courteous of all student opinions, without a teacher promoting her own social or political activism or encouraging students to become activists for social or political causes. And I think that's a big part of the problems that we're seeing that parents are most frustrated with. And they would just like to see that come to a halt so that we can have discussions without it turning into a lesson in social activism.
Thank you. Member Vargas?
Yes, ma'am. So I would like to speak in favor of the motion, and I do support the motion, but I would love to collaborate on the definitions. And so I do understand that there are definitions, and with the understanding that I would like to discuss those, I do support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Hymus?
Thank you. I like what's happening here. I don't care for it, so I guess I'm gonna move to amend the amendment.
Okay.
Um,
Mr. Cannell, are you ready? Hold on just a second, I gotta.
That's fine.
Mr. Cannell?
Oh.
Oh, it is. That is true.
Then
We need to vote on this first. thank you.
So just let me ask a clarifying question then. Is the definitions attached to this? My concern is with activists, quite honestly. I think the definition is not as strong as it could be. And so that's where I'm struggling. So I don't know how to vote for this with those definitions.
That's why I said.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Definitions, and then they can be along with.
Yeah. No, I know. Why don't, hold on, we could,
Well, if it passes,
if, I was just gonna say, why don't you speak, and I'm gonna go tell it to him.
Okay, I'm speaking against this. I just think the language up above isn't coming from a law or anything. If we're gonna do something from law, there's some provisions in 261, which I'm not even sure we wanna be in this area. But I do think we now have to start thinking about, okay, who's majority, who's minority? But the fact you put it in there says that there has to be a majority minority, otherwise you can't differentiate between the majority minority, right? The very fact that you put it in there says that there is a difference between them and that you have to somehow articulate it so that you know not to articulate it, right? So to me, it's confused.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I'm just gonna finish.
Hold on.
To me, it's confusing. I
Hold
don't
on.
think it heads in the right direction. If, like, from 261, if we wanted to put something in, which I'm not sure we want to, they have in here, this is for higher ed though, separation of personal political advocacy from, and they have the institution's business and employment activities, which would be related to, it would be school mission or activities or whatever, or purpose. I just don't think it needs to be there. I just think it lends itself to more complications than it actually does resolve any issues. The fact we're training on the things not to do and the things to be cautious of, I think it's adequate. So that's what I thought.
Okay, thank you. No other comments? We go to, I'm sorry, your light wasn't on. Go ahead, Member Lear.
I can't, there are enough squishy words in this,
Oh, she's lying.
this whole rule and this whole experience, including the two bills that we keep referencing to fill a huge container. But I absolutely cannot I cannot support avoiding when there are penalties for these things, for LEAs potentially, and for educators. And so a teacher would be free to say, I avoided that. It just came out of my mouth. I tried. They're words that are not, and what for the penalties, I wouldn't mind that. I think there's sometimes a place in rules for should and avoid and rather nots. But when there are penalties and threats, then I can't abide that. So I don't support it. I also don't know where these definitions came from. I can't improve them. They're not strictly, look, I checked, they're not Merriam-Webster. They're not absolutely dictionary definitions. So, and then there's 5 dictionaries to choose from. So,
Oh, thank you.
thank
Oh,
you.
sorry.
I was through.
Okay. Member Carey?
Yes, I'd like to speak in opposition to the motion. My concern is, I think some of our best educators bring passion, excitement to the classroom, and my concern is that passion can be misinterpreted as activism. I teach a college class, and no matter what side of the issue I'm taking, I try to bring passion to that side and convince the students to look at things differently. And that approach may at times be provocative. So I'm concerned that we are unnecessarily causing some of our best teachers and maybe just teachers in general to say, you know what, the best thing I can do is come in, present this material, let the students figure it out, and end the class. And I'd feel uncomfortable if that were the message that could be derived from that language. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Thank you. I'll add, I thought of that. I thought of our debate teachers in particular that get very passionate while they're teaching how to argue an argument. I did think of that situation. Okay, I gave everybody time to have a comment, so I think we're ready to vote. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not know. Thank you, Emily, for speaking up, Member Green for speaking up.
No worries, and I didn't put my hand up on the thing either. A genuine question though, because we were just talking about the definition of inclusion, and I would like an answer for anybody that knows this. Who and when did we create that definition for inclusion? And how did we come to have a definition like that? And then where did activism and provocation definitions come from? I'm genuinely just trying to put how we decide on what those definitions are and when we decide to define specific terms.
Okay, I'm looking for, no, Leah Voorhees. Leah. Did they? Okay. Those are the two you were, okay. So the inclusion definition, I believe, is in federal regulations for special education. The description of inclusion?
I think they're getting.
They're getting her, okay, that's why I didn't really want to speak. I was hoping to find her in the meantime. But in the meantime, Member Klein, will you tell us where the definitions that you will,
Yeah, we
you'll be
just did
proposing?
so I just worked with Angie and Elise in the back. We did a quick Google search to figure out what, and then I think Oxford Dictionary had something very similar, and then we tweaked it so that it would be clear for this kind of application.
So Member Green, the answer to the second part of your question is if the definitions are proposed in the definitions of the words that in the motion that's being proposed came from a process with our staff. I'm waiting for our special education guru and extraordinaire to explain where the definition of inclusion is exactly. Yes.
And may I respond?
Can she see the definitions that are on the screen?
I can see those.
You
yeah.
can see those?
And if,
Okay.
may I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so I think it just comes down to, my understanding too is way back when we were discussing 328, previously board members, that we had gotten to a point where there were so many definitions that they tabled a lot of those definitions. So we've left some specific ones. It sounds like inclusion is one of those. And so I am, yes, just trying to
Sure.
really help the general public understand what that argument, because we're advocating for a definition of inclusion, but now we're advocating that, well, we have definitions and they're coming out of thin air. So I just for the sake of fairness, I want us to clarify.
Understood. AG Buse?
So the definition of inclusion was adopted by you as a board in the special education rules. So that's where it comes from.
Thank you. Did you hear that?
Who defines that?
The definition of inclusion was
How did we come to a definition of that?
in a board meeting, and it's included in our special education rules.
Did we vote on those?
Yes.
A vote was taken to
Yes.
define that. If we voted, would this be the same thing then with activism and provocation?
Those
Or is it apples to apples comparison?
inclusion is in our special education manual that was approved by a board I don't recall the year. Just last year? Okay, so in 2023, Leah's saying 3. Okay, and those other words would be defined in the next motion. They are not already defined anywhere.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
yep. All right, voting is open. Please vote. The amendment is that we're voting on.
For a point of information or clarity, is that okay?
Sure.
So, should this pass? Should this pass, we will be entertaining and amending these definitions.
Right,
Correct. Thank you.
if somebody makes that motion.
I will make the motion.
Okay, so the motion that's on the table that you're voting on is motion number 2, to still strike lines 82 to 86 and add E, avoiding activist or provocative treatment of topics while allowing students to discuss in a courteous and respectful manner whether those opinions are in the majority or minority. Please vote.
Member Green is a yes.
Member Green is a yes? Okay, we have a vote. That motion does not pass. It is 11-4, the yeses being Member Green, Member Klein, Member Hymus, Member Bogus. Okay, so that what concludes yours. So Member Earl, you are next on the list. No, and then you. I am always skipping over one. Okay, so we're back to the underlying motion. You can now amend, yes. Yes, okay. So let me state the motion first, and then I'll call on you. The motion is that the board strike lines 82 to 86. You have an amendment, Member Klein.
Actually, the underlying motion, I think, is to strike 82 to 86 as amended. Because there was an amendment.
Did we pass an amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Member Bogus. The motion is, the underlying motion, strike lines 82 to 86 as amended. Yes. We passed one, the one about D, the constitutionally protected rights of students. That is correct. And now we're back to the underlying motion. Hold on just a second.
It's to strike those.
Are lines 86 through 82 through 86 include D and E?
And add subsection
D and E?
includes D.
Okay.
But then it would strike the other piece.
Yes.
Can you use your mic, please?
Yeah, I think I need to divide the question then, because we were told that the constitutionally protected rights that passed only substituted. So we need to divide this amendment if we want to keep the impartiality, right? Because E did not pass. So D would replace, or have we not voted on E yet?
We voted on E.
And it did
E
not
failed.
pass. So
That's
then,
correct.
if we're back to Member Hymus's motion, and we want to keep the varied viewpoints are always, presented in a politically neutral and impartial manner, then we need to divide his amendment in half.
Can,
Or we need to divide. I
can
meant to
we
divide.
show 82 through 86, those lines, please? Hold on.
So my motion is to divide 83 and 84 from
Hold
85
on,
and 86.
hold on. Member Klein had an emotion first. All right, so those are the lines that would be stricken. And we did amend it, so those lines would be stricken and D would be added. So you would like to do an amendment. Go ahead.
The motion as amended. I would move to, and I need to bring E back up because that's part I'm going to add to this and amend it, as well as adding the definitions in.
We already voted it down. Can you
But
put
there-
it in amendment? Okay.
But I'm going to change it.
Okay.
So, but if they can put that language up there so that I can see, and then I'll tell them how to change it. Okay, so
Hold on.
we just
let's-
couldn't amend it before because it was already a second amendment. So, so I would, where it says whether those opinions are in the majority or minority, I would say, and we can either put a period or say regardless of whether.
That's really the
It's-
same
it's-
motion.
It's not the same because depending on how you read it, it can be interpreted two different ways. And I think Jenny was interpreting it a different way. So they're not discussing whether their opinion is in the minority or majority, which is how it may have looked to her. But regardless of whether they have a popular opinion or not, they can discuss it in a civil and courteous way. So that's,
I would say it's the,
Okay, hold-
I'm calling it that it's the same, but we can either vote or whatever.
Hold
so.
on, we
okay,
had a,
then I would just take that part off and say that, end it after respectful manner. And put a period after manner and strike the rest of it. And then I would also add the definition of activism and provocative into that so that it is,
but activists, those two words did not pass.
but that's, they were not part of the motion before. The definitions were not part of the motion before, so nobody could, they were forced to vote on the amendment without being able to without working on the definitions that go with it. So I should have put those with it before so that it will change what it means depending on how those definitions get amended. So
The problem is you're defining something that isn't actually in there. You can't put definitions of something that isn't stated.
but that part is, I'm saying that that's part of my motion to bring that part back and add the definitions in so that that discussion can be had.
Hold on, we had a point of information from Member Lear first, and then your point of order.
And I was much simpler. I just wanted to know what happened to recognizing the constitutionally protected rights of all citizens.
That is included, that's the as amended in Member Hymas's underlying
Yes,
motion.
and that would actually go before the E it would go before the part that's stricken. If you want to put them in the proper order that they fall in the draft. The
So
green
Matt's
would
mo-
go
can
at
I asked my
the
question.
top.
Hold on.
I just want
Hold
to
on,
make
yeah.
sure that in striking that series of lines now, we don't also strike that.
No, it's
Gotcha. That's all I
striking
need to know.
and then adding.
So we're
All right,
adding
now
that
your point of
regardless.
order.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
So if, in the actual, yeah,
No,
so if you
hold-
put E down at the bottom, then that's how it reads in the rule. So D on top, then the stricken language, then E.
I just have a question because didn't we already strike down this motion? Can you bring back your motion and amend it because it lost the
It's a
first time?
different
No,
amendment.
she's arguing that it's a different amendment.
But
I
it's
want to see the
same
amendment before I
language
decide.
That we just voted down.
Yeah, and we
significantly
will,
different. I took
but
half of it
until she
out.
has her motion correct, I don't want to make a decision. Is your
Yes.
motion correct?
And then with it, I need the definitions added into the motion.
Do you already have the definitions, whoever's
They're
driving?
down
Okay,
the page there. They just need to be brought up.
okay. Okay?
Okay, that is correct, as it is on the screen.
Thank you.
Just curious if those definitions include avoiding.
What's that?
Avoiding is not one of those definitions then.
No, it was
I just,
No,
I
but
was
that-
just checking. Avoiding is still just a standalone word.
Right,
Okay,
and if
thank you.
somebody has a better word, they could
put.
make
All
a
right.
suggestion. I'm open to suggestions.
So the motion that Member Klein is making is of, D, recognizing the constitutionally protected amendment, protected rights of students. E, avoiding activist or provocative treatments of topics while allowing students to discuss in a courteous and respectful manner. And the definitions, 1, activism means presenting ideas or encouraging behavior for the purpose of bringing about political or social change. And 5, provocation means delivering instruction or content for the purpose of eliciting a negative emotional response. I'm actually going to allow it. Are there any comments? If not, we can go to voting.
Quick question.
Question? Okay. What?
It's an amendment to an amendment, so if you have suggestions at the maker of the motion, you can make them to suggestions. And I will amend
Okay.
mine.
Okay, Member Klein, hold on. Let's get some comments.
I just have a quick question. Does is Part D then dependent on whether this particular motion?
No, Part D is,
That's already in, okay.
I don't think that Member Klein's motion includes D because that already passed and is part of the amendment. She isn't amending that part, so that shouldn't be included. And we need a second.
I would second it for the purposes of amending.
There's a member, second by, you can, hold on. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a second from Member Bogus. Now you can speak to your motion.
I am open to suggestions for amending.
This, so that it addresses concerns that people have, so that we can, the goal is to create an atmosphere in the classroom that is not hostile to different opinions and that allows for courteous discussion without a classroom becoming
Okay,
an activist a
environment.
product in an activist type environment where kids are being made to feel uncomfortable or like they have to participate or affirm activist ideologies or behaviors.
Member Davis?
I think we could add courteous to the top and just keep the examination of various viewpoints on a topic in a courteous or respectful, impartial and politically neutral manner. Seems very clear and still allows for the passion that some folks have talked about. I know, but I'm just saying, I guess I'm speaking against this because I think it's all basically included in a more streamlined version above.
Okay, thank you. Member Member Carey, you're next.
Thank you,
okay.
Vice Chair Hart. I would just speak against the motion for the same reasons. I understand I don't want activism in the classroom, but I think we do run the risk with this language of creating a sterile operating room type of environment where teachers and educators are just, they'll want to comply, and that's a good thing, but to the point where I think it's detrimental to the learning and the academic excellence which we're trying to foster. So I will be voting against the amendment.
Thank you. Member Bogus? I clicked you off because my fingers are fat.
Thank you, ma'am. I struggle with this because I see the point, but however, rather, as my conjunction, one could call Member Booth's statement this morning in his song, activism bringing about social change. but I would not necessarily argue that that would be bad social change. And so I struggle with this definition, and I don't know. I'm struggling to find a definition that I could vote for in this realm, and so I would default to Member Carey's comments. Thank you.
I think what you're saying are all ideas are provocative. It's beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I wouldn't say all ideas are provocative, because the definition of activism.
Okay. Member Klein, and then I think we're going to go to a vote.
I don't know how to fix it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
No,
So
it's me.
provocation is the kind of the big one there. Means delivering instruction or content for the purpose of eliciting a negative emotional response. So I don't think that's ever appropriate to be trying to rile kids up or get them to feel negatively or that, afraid or like the world is terrible and that they have to, it's their job to go out and solve all the world's problems. I just don't think that belongs in the classroom. And so, if activism, if we could change it to avoiding provocative activism, maybe that would be the better way to go.
We need to
So
stay.
avoiding, I would just amend E to say avoiding provocative activism. Or
The problem is the motion belongs on the floor now.
no, because they can't,
You can't.
I can amend my own amendment, right?
No. It's on the floor. It would have to be without objection.
All right, without objection, I would change E to read avoiding provocative activism in the classroom, in the treatment of, yes, there you go.
Okay.
Avoiding provocative activism in the treatment of.
Okay. Is there
Yes.
any objection to that change? All right, let's move to a vote. Do you have the? Member Straight?
Thank
Oh,
you.
you're-
No. Thank you, Chair. I think maybe this will be helpful to the discussion. In the many times I've read over this, one thing I like about lines 84 through, or 82 through 86 is it's a positive lead up to the long list of, I think, what your concerns are on lines 115 through 140. So lines 115 through 140 is the thou shalt not section, and that's what we get from 261. That's what we get from 427, if I'm getting my numbers right. And that goes back to the original resolution on critical race theory, which has continued on and been expanded on in the last, in those two bills. And so I agree with Board Member Carey in his analysis of this potential effect on teachers. I agree with that fully, and he's now expressed that twice. And I think that's where we're at. But I think what you're trying to present here is really entailed in 115 through 140. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move to a vote now. Are we ready? Thank you. No, I think we need to move to a vote. I'm sorry. No. You got it? Okay. Okay. Member Green, do you have your vote?
I'm a yes.
Okay. Will you record that, please? Thank you. All right. We have completed, voting's complete. We have, that fails 12-3. The yeses are Bogus, Klein, and green. All right, now we are back to the underlying motion. Oh, good, I got it right. The board strike lines 82 to 86 as amended, which is the line that says, yeah, where'd it go? There it is. No, it's. No, it's. Yeah, the concept, where's the word about the stuff about?
Isn't it just math is only to strike those two lines?
Matt's is 82 to 86, and then adding D, recognizing the constitutionally protected rights of all students. Yes, Member Davis?
So if we just vote no on this amendment instead of dividing the question, then the Constitution part stays
No.
and the viewpoint diversity with impartial political neutrality stays.
If you vote no, then lines 82 through 86 stays, and what was added, because it was an amendment.
Then we have to divide the question if we want to keep the political neutrality part in.
That is correct.
Then I move to divide.
Okay, we have a motion to divide. Do we have a second? We have a second. How, yes, yeah, that's probably key.
So I think we need to divide lines 82 and 83.
Wait, you're dividing between 82 and 83?
Well, take the Constitution part as one, and then lines 85 and 86, the examination of various viewpoints on a topic in an impartial and politically neutral manner. That's the second part.
Would it include developing strategies to promote?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
No.
or you could just do examining various viewpoints on a topic in an impartial and politically neutral manner.
I like that.
What makes you think it's?
Who do we need? What?
They need to be trained that when they're
So-
examining various viewpoints, they have to do it in an impartial and politically neutral manner.
So point of clarification, the amendment was for 79, 80, and 81. Also, that's replaced the D. The D replaced the D. So it added in D. His language did not add E, D. The replacement to D.
Okay, I'm just going to confess that there are no line numbers up here, so I have no idea what you're saying.
Okay, so it's the letters. It's the D.
Constitutional?
D
okay.
replaced D.
Chopping block. This
Okay.
is now constitutional.
So did she split it, or is it a sub motion?
Yes, D replaced D and E. And so all we have left now is constitutional rights and the viewpoint diversity.
Okay, so then what split is the
But you'll have to
constitutional,
Yes, you
and
will have
then
to
the,
divide.
okay. You got that? No. Repeat what you just said to Mr. Cannell.
If you can add in lines 79, 80, and 81 as stricken and replaced with the new amendment with the constitutional rights. So basically 79 through 83 were replaced with the new constitutional rights, leaving the part we're debating as 84 through 86.
Sorry, those are lines 82 to 86, which,
E was also replaced, so you could get rid of E. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we're debating now, are those D and then the new E.
So what does it read like in total? Not just what's being taken out, but what is being left?
Well, so it would be developing strategies to promote the examination of various viewpoints on a topic in an impartial and politically neutral manner, unless the motion from Cindy is moved forward.
Yeah, I know, we're splitting it now. Oh, are you done? Okay. Okay,
I just didn't know if we were kind of silent. Ah, perfect.
so is that your motion to divide? Is that accurate, Member Davis, or are you, is? Remove lines 82 and 83, and number 2 is taking out. No, that's, Natalie, that's the underlying motion to strike it. That's Matt's motion.
But I think she wants to leave in. She just wants to examine the various viewpoints.
Yeah.
She just, let's, okay, oh, yeah, yeah. Right, right.
Right,
Got it.
this is just to divide.
Don't slow us down with rules.
Yes. Right. Member Davis, is this your motion to divide? Okay, do we have a second on this? Second from Member Booth. We are now going to vote on this. No? Right.
It's just to divide. Are we gonna divide?
This is just about the division. Okay? No. No, this is just dividing. Right. Okay, we're going to vote as soon as, okay? Okay, please vote. Voting's open. Member Green?
Yes.
Did you? We're missing one. All right, the motion divide passes by a vote 13-2. The noes would be Hymus and Klein. So the motion is divided. We will consider the first motion, which is remove lines 82 and 83. Does someone want to speak to that motion?
No, it'd be straight.
It would to be to strike. It would stricken. No, that was the motion. That was Member Hymus's motion. Member Wood.
Can someone help me understand? We voted to approve constitutional rights of students.
Correct.
Where did that go? That should be part A in our voting to divide, and then viewpoints should be part B.
It doesn't have to be. We asked Cindy how she wanted it divided. She divided it in 2, not in 3.
So that still, we voted to keep that, so that stays.
Okay, so that's still there. Okay.
So what we voted on, that part stays. We're not addressing that. We're
Okay.
addressing Matt's motion, which was to strike 83 through 86 from the original,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
So,
I mistook
yes,
Member
yes,
Davis's question because she said,
Right.
will it go away if we vote no? So
Right.
that was a misunderstanding on my part. Thank you.
no, it does not.
Thing. My understanding is that constitutional rights are in there, and they replace defending intellectual honesty lines. The only thing now by dividing is being able to vote to keep the political neutrality piece. That's how I understand it. That's why I divided, so that we could vote to keep the political neutrality piece and not lose the constitutional rights change we already made.
What do you mean, where did? It went in between. It went in between.
She said D and E. She replaced D
Oh,
and E. We're only voting on F, right?
okay. All right. There we go. Thank you, Member Klein. That is, well, we did deal with that part. Yep, take that out. Yes, and that means, A.G. Buse, does that, what do you, when it, okay, so a direct question is, when we figured out that we did an error and we only need half, we don't need to divide now, because that's already been changed.
Which is what I asked in the first place.
I know, and I steered you wrong because I didn't understand.
It's fine. It's all been,
What?
it's hard. It's lots
Okay, so let's just
pieces
vote on the
moving.
motion just to get it taken care of. And
Which motion?
vote on two. Okay, so what we are doing is we are considering what is up there as number 2. Remove lines 84 through 86. Cindy, Member Davis?
I speak against it. I mean, like we're gonna have so many different conversations in these classrooms, and so many different viewpoints are gonna come up, and we have been asked repeatedly to help teachers understand that these conversations need to be done or facilitated and led in an impartial and politically neutral manner. So
Okay.
I think we need to keep it.
All right, Member Klein?
Thank you. This part is, it sounds super well-meaning, but how it actually plays out in the classroom really doesn't go so well. We had this aspect in the original 328, this idea of political neutrality, which, I think we all think that that's possible, and we want that to be possible in the classroom. But the fact is that we all have very different views, and we can try to act politically neutral, but the way it's being interpreted is many teachers think they can bring up anything, and as long as they present it in a way that they consider they're being politically neutral and say, I'm just presenting information. Well, they could be teaching LGBTQ stuff, and that's not really politically neutral, but how they present it, they try to present it as in a neutral way, and so but it still causes the harm to a lot of students that don't believe in those kind of things. So it gets really tricky, as well as the idea of you can't treat one ideology over another or put one above the other. That just makes it so we have this this equivalent. We are saying that things like capitalism and communism are on the same level, and we can't say that one is better than the other one. One is clearly better, and what our nation is founded on, and so then it brings that into question and allows teachers to plant seeds of doubt in kids' minds that certain things that our country was founded on are actually bad or systemically racist, and so that's how it's actually playing out. So the idea of political neutrality just allows them to advocate for moral equivalence among all ideologies, and that's just not an honest presentation of empirical evidence many times.
Okay, thank you. Member Bogus. And then Member Davis after that. You're red.
Thank you. So, I would argue in favor of striking these lines for a number of reasons, but I would go to the word impartial. straight off. There are certain things that I don't think we should be impartial about. For example, sex trafficking. For example, slavery. For example, a genocide. I think this opens the door to saying, and there is a culture still today where if they think people are lying, they feed them poison beans. And then if they die, they were actually lying. Like, I shouldn't have to be impartial, that culturally that's probably not something we should be doing to humans. And so I would speak in favor of the motion as I hone it into that word. While we need to be careful, fair, and sporting in our classrooms, the idea of impartiality means that all these things are moral equivalents, and honestly, they're not. And I'm not going to be impartial when condemning slavery. And I think we need to consider that as we look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Davis?
I mean, I'd consider it a friendly amendment to just take out impartial and keep politically neutral. I mean, because there are things, like you said, with capitalism and communism and whatnot. But I do think we need to leave something of this nature. And I had a parent call and say, you know, I was there, for example, when the Rodney King episode happened, and he was a police officer there, and he said, we had this conversation in class, and the teacher, he felt like was really, leading the conversation, and the son said, wait, there are two sides to this story, actually, and some other things happened that the world didn't know on the news, but he didn't feel like that viewpoint was necessarily appreciated or welcomed or presented in a facilitated in an impartial or politically neutral manner. So I think we have to be really careful. I mean, our kids need to be able to speak in their classrooms in a variety of ways. And while the teacher is facilitating, the teacher needs to facilitate in a politically neutral manner. I don't know how better to say that. And I don't know how that is can be misinterpreted, but
Okay. All right. I see no other lights. Let's move to a vote. Yes, the vote is to remove lines 84 through 86. And that is those lines that are right there and struck through. Member Green?
Yes.
Did you get hers up there? No, I need to change that. We're missing one vote. Oh, okay. All right. That does not pass by a vote of 8-7. The yeses are Member Carey, Vice Chair Hart, Vice Chair Earl, Member Green, Member Klein, Member Hymas, Member Bogus. All right.
Did we strike the top one?
Yeah, that was already changed. All right, it is now.
No, we have to go back to the underlying motion.
No, we divided the underlying motion. That was it.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
No, I'm up.
Yeah, we're now at the rule, but I can tell you that we have 4 more people in line for amendments. It is Member Earl, and then up after her would be Member Klein, and then Bogus, and then Norton.
Okay.
So go ahead.
If there's a motion list, I'd like to be on it.
Okay.
Top, please.
Oh,
Did you not have
let me,
you had
let me turn my paper upside down.
yeah.
I know, I'm not putting any, there was some technical changes where the rule does not read correctly. However, I believe that with this list, I think we should address those at the very end if there's still a problem.
If there's a technical change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. Yes. Oh, it's not, okay, thank you. All right, Member Earl.
Yeah, do you have my amendments? Okay. Did we address this already? Sorry.
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Okay, my brain is. So on line,
177?
yeah, is that the only thing that's changed in that one then? Is that why? Is that the language when you guys looked at it? Sorry, that's why I'm confused. So it would switch out because we don't have anywhere in 261 that actually talks about group characteristics. It's all about different personal identity characteristics. And so we didn't want to go back into the group sphere. So this is just a change on this line. And if I don't have the whole thing in front of me, but that
There
would
it
be the
is.
change. To strike students within a personal identity characteristic group and just put students based on different personal identity characteristics. It's just creating an alignment with what they've brought out of 261. So we're not into groups, we're into individuals. So, and the reason why, do I have a second? Okay. And the reason why,
Member Davis, second.
yeah, that's in there in the first place. It's just to clarify that if you've got a club or you've got a group that you can continue those activities, but you can't eliminate others based on the fact that they're not, if you have Latinos in action, or I don't know, you could name other things, but that it can't be discriminatory in that manner. So take
Okay.
into consideration other people if they wanted to be part of those. So,
All right, Member Wood? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You're just looking.
Yeah, I appreciate any clarification we can get here. I've been texted by a high school in my area that they have a Polynesian club, and the kids were all freaked out after the passing that they weren't going to be able to hold their club. And I said, well, you just got to make sure everyone's included. And they said, we already do. And I said, then you don't have to change anything. So thank you for the clarification.
Member Klein?
Does this include biological boys being able to be in female-only clubs or on female-only teams?
well, the law articulates specifically to sports. And so that point is already in there. That doesn't address it here, but I think that we include that in the law. The pieces that the legislature addressed are addressed within the framework. And I don't have that. I should have printed off the recent 328, but it's there. No, 328. It's in
Draft
It's
sheet?
in 261, but it talks about for governmental interest, which is specifically outlined. And that's the reason why it's included in there, because that's the caveat that the legislature themselves put into place.
And that government interest is
So
specific to sports?
This is yes, this is specific to,
Clubs.
this is just, no, the only thing we're addressing here is the difference between groups and personal identity. So that's what the amendment is. It's not in those other items.
Right.
Okay.
All right, no other questions? Let's,
What about
Oh.
like a girls' choir?
that doesn't appear to be,
A boy can join the girls' choir?
we don't know.
I can comment on that.
You can.
So the trending movement in the vocal realm is treble versus a baritone bass
yeah.
choir, and so an individual would have to be able to execute in a certain range in order to be a part of a certain group. And there may still be vocal music ensembles out there that do say girls and boys, but the trending movement is toward treble and otherwise, Randy, help me out with the other name. It's not necessarily bass, but it would be like a lower voice choir or something.
Okay, all right. So let's go to a vote. The motion is to amend it to say designated specifically for a student based on a different personal identity characteristics. Please vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Member Green.
I keep feeling like I still need to say thank you to Member Lear for casting my vote. I owe you. She should get paid double.
Okay, that motion passed unanimously.
Oh, it would be, yeah, it would have.
Okay, that's a grammatical change we can. Thank you. It still passes unanimously. Let's go. Straight, you can go to the bathroom now. All right. Can you share your next motion,
Yes,
please?
what's the next motion? Do you have the next motion?
Can you scroll to the next motion, please?
So it would be just adding at the end of, an LEA may establish or maintain an office, division, employment position. This whole section, it just consistent with 53G 105, and that's in the new law, that is the section that comes into play here that LEAs may have. It's the student success and support portion. Yes, sorry. So all it does is add a reference, so I've had people say, where'd that come from, or can we do that kind of thing, and the law, they put that language in the law, and then they reference it in the LEA section, so I want to make sure it's referenced here, so people know where it came from.
And I thank you
So-
as a practitioner because I look for those references in order to know what to pull, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
All right, I
Okay.
see no questions. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
Yes. So can I just jump back to that last one really quick and ask, Jenny, if the previous motion, does that include Powder Puff? Because Powder Puff girls football is not fall under UHSSA.
I have no idea.
So if you had a boy playing Powder Puff, that could be a big deal.
So that has, I don't, those are like things we can talk
Yeah,
about
okay.
after this, but
All right.
those are relevant to
But I-
sports, not,
Yeah, I do have an amendment for this one that is up. And I would move to strike after where it starts provides. And I have a motion to that effect if you just want to bring up my motion that's already written up. But yeah, so you would strike to the end on that and then add. So you're going to strike starting at provides and strike to the end and then add. Yes. And we
Hold
could
on,
put-
hold, oh, sorry, are you clarifying?
well, and we could keep the consistent with 53G 105 on the end.
Okay. Let me get a second on that, and then you can speak to it.
Second that.
Okay, second from Member Green. All right, now you can speak to it.
So again, we talked earlier that not everything has to be, that's in the law has to be written or rewritten into our rule. Everything that I have covers all students, and that they all have services available to them through those offices or divisions within the LEA to provide help to students. It's just simpler, more concise.
Can
You
I
have a-
speak?
yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would just say this seems to eliminate the initiation by the education community themselves. If you wanted to include something like includes parent and student request, that may be appropriate. I don't, at this point in this whole, I'm not done. In this point in this whole process, I just feel like I would like to go with where the legislature has already taken it. I'm not sure I want to go modifying theirs. To me, this suggests that guidance comes after a parent or a student makes a request, and not necessarily as an educator or the education entity letting parents know that there's a need for something. So,
All right. Hold on. Let me get Wood and then.
I appreciate the addition of the consistent with 53G, but I would speak against this just because we had been poring over 427, 261, 328. I mean, we probably spent 15 to 20 hours on this. And when Vice Chair Earl put this language in, I said, wait, can we do this? Because we had missed this portion. So I think it's super important as we're moving through what our LEAs can do. There are 22 pages in HB 261. This is a huge, and a lot of it is irrelevant to our LEAs because it's higher ed. And so to just narrow it down and say, look, you can do this is so helpful. So thank you.
Okay. Member Klein.
Yeah, so the language upon student or parent request so is in there so that this parent and the student are the drivers of their own education. The parent should be, they're the primary and the school is secondary and supposed to be supportive of the parent. So it makes sense that it would be the parent and student driving those requests and not the school. The school makes these resources and their help available. And so that they can support all students that need that support. And so this just adds that component. We have another part in the rule where it says to work actively to increase parental engagement. And this is one way that we can do that, is by allowing them to be the drivers of the help that they request and receive. And the school can certainly let families know what is available. So it's not like we're trying to, prevent that help. We want parents and students to know what help is available, but it needs to be on the parents and the student to request that. And yeah.
Oh, okay. Is this going to add to the conversation, Chris? Are you?
Yeah, I always add to the conversation, ma'am. So at first glance, I really like this, but I have to relate these to my own experience as an educator. And oftentimes, it is the teacher who calls the parent and says, "Hi, my name is Ms. Bogus. I teach your child at such and such an institution, and I'm observing X." And that's, I don't make that phone call upon parental request. I make that phone call as a duty as an educator to inform that parent, and then I let them choose whether or not we want to pursue that option. And so I'm, in my brain, I'm actually searching for language that would accommodate both, empower the driving of the parent, but also not enjoin the teacher from engaging in a way that would be totally appropriate. And so I would ask the maker of the motion, how do we reconcile that? Because sometimes students don't know they have a problem. And if parents aren't in the classroom, they don't know that their student has a problem. And I say sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And so my question would be, through the chair to the maker of the motion, how do we reconcile that?
You can either respond or not.
Yeah, so I would be fine amending to makes available to offers. So an LEA to offer upon, well, let's see. or another unit of an LEA that to offer support. And I would put the clause upon, maybe take out upon student or parent request and just leave it with offers.
Okay, the motion belongs to the body. Is there an objection to that amendment? Was hearing none, that is the amendment now.
Unit of an LEA.
Okay. Yes, please, absolutely. I was going to, but you can. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Can I speak to it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I do like that language much better. Thank you, Member Klein. I think that this covers both, that we still have the opportunity to reject the offer, which keeps people in a place that's stable and appropriate. I need to cogitate on this for a minute, but I thank you for the amendment.
Okay. So I'm going to read it again just to be ready for the vote. Give you a minute. The motion on the floor is to amend the amendment to say, an LEA may establish or maintain an office, division, employment position, or other unit of an LEA that offers support, guidance, and resources for student academic success and career goals without regard to an individual's personal identity characteristics consistent with 53G 2-105. All right, let's vote. Member Green, voting is open.
Yes.
No harassment. Are you harassing? Member Lear is out, so the amendment fails 9-5. The yeses are Vice Chair Hart, Green, Bogus, Carey, Klein. All right, so that moves us back to the motion as amended, which would read, an LEA may establish or maintain an office, division, employment position, or other unit of an LEA that provides support, guidance, and resources that equip all students, including all students in public schools at higher risk of not completing high school, with experiences and opportunities for success in each student's academic and career goals, and without excluding individuals on the basis of an individual's personal identity characteristics consistent with 53G-2-105. Please vote when it opens. Whatever it meant in the law. In the code. The code might define it. I don't know. All right, the voting is open. Member Green, the voting is open.
Yes.
Member Green's vote is a yes. We're at 13, we need 2 more. We are at 14, we need 1 more. All right, that motion passes 14-1. 14 with 1 abstention. The abstention is Member Davis. Member Klein, I'm sorry. Okay, where did it go? Okay, so Member Klein abstained, just for the record.
So my amendment here is that in K through 12, that we add these 2 provisions of law here of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and then this Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. I know that they dealt with primarily higher education, and so 504 is relevant to public education, and it would seem appropriate to have it in there. So.
All right, the motion on the floor that has been seconded by Member Straight. Any comments? Seeing no lights. Go ahead and, we are going to vote. Oh, question? Okay. Member Klein?
So recently I was involved with a parent that had filed a Title IX complaint and about, he was not comfortable because a boy was using the girls' bathroom at the school where his daughter went. And the Title IX specialist that he met with on his claim insisted that, this comes in on that last part, receive adverse treatment, be advanced, or receive beneficial treatment because of the individual's personal identity characteristics. So when you have gender identity and sex, both in that definition of personal identity characteristics, which is what was passed in the law, you run into a problem where the two come in conflict every time because.
So, Board Member Klein, I just have to say this is not relevant to my motion. The other items are already in the law. So,
Yeah.
if you want to argue those, you might have to.
Well,
not
I'm
here.
just, I think it's important that we in this room understand how this is playing out in the field, because he was told that his daughter could only have an accommodation, meaning the boy could still go in because otherwise he was not, his daughter would be
Point of order.
receiving.
This is not
this
relevant to the
beneficial
motion.
and-
You would have to speak
Okay.
after the amendment because the
Okay.
amendment's about 504.
Yeah.
So you can speak after, but not to this motion. Okay. All right, no other motion, questions about the amendment? Let's vote. Is it up? Yep. Voting is open. Member Green? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Member Green is, yeah, okay. All right, so that passes unanimously. That concludes Member Earls, and that goes, now Member Klein.
Did you want me to finish what I was saying
Well,
before or just move on?
Make a
Okay.
motion, and then you can talk to it. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I would move to, on line 16, add on number 2, the purpose of this rule is to provide, and then I would amend the rest to read, provide the superintendent, LEAs, and educators with standards for equal opportunities, educational freedom, and prohibited discriminatory practices, including in professional learning, course standards, classroom instruction, and materials. And if I get a second, I'll speak to that.
Do we have a second? Second from Member Carey?
Okay, so you'll notice that this expands the purpose of the rule to cover what happens in the classroom, not just professional learning or training, what can be said or not said in a professional training. It also includes what can be practiced in the classroom where these things, where the rubber meets the road. And so I think it would be negligent on our part to not make sure that these things apply to the classroom as well.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask, I'm just asking a clarifying question. We're not, if I'm understanding this right, we're not doing professional development on how to do professional development on how to, we're doing professional development around the broader items in here, which would naturally include those, because when you say you can't promote X, Y, and Z, it's not just promote that in professional learning. Does that make sense? It's promote that in all areas.
Okay, but it doesn't explicitly, just because they receive training on these things doesn't mean that it doesn't, that they're, because no, I don't think it says anywhere in here that that they are prohibited from doing this in the classroom. They're just prohibited from it being in the training.
Okay.
That's,
All right, so let's go in order, and
So that's it's a
Member Davis, and then Member Davis, and then Member Cheryl.
Yeah, just an explanation of why this was taken out in the first place is because it's narrowing, because educators are expected to do this everywhere, on the playground, everywhere. There's no place where these laws do not apply. They apply in the classroom. They apply in after-school activities. They apply everywhere. And so that's why we really wanted to make sure that was understood, that this is all-encompassing.
Okay. Member Earl?
yeah, and I think that, I'm not going to repeat what Cindy said, plus 427 itself is encompassing of those, and so it's referenced in here. So when we start, I think we end up narrowing, going, just what it said, narrowing, going that way instead of leaving it the broader. We're not teaching people how to do professional development. The professional development's on the items that are in the law, so it's encompassing.
Okay, Member Klein, is your light on? There you go.
That isn't how I read it, so I don't think it's clear in that regard. To me, it's a professional development standard for professional trainings, and that's why the teachers, or it mentions in here that those trainings can be requested by the parent. But that leads to another point in the fact that, and I don't address this in my motions because I'm not sure how to do that, but a vast majority of trainings happen outside of or from entities outside the USBE or LEAs. There are trainings available everywhere for teachers now, and so they go to conferences, they go to association trainings, USBA, UEA, conferences all around the country and online, even conferences trainings put on by the U.S. Department of Ed and other companies, ed tech companies. And do we have anything that prohibits them from attending trainings that promote these very things?
Hold on, Member Davis, and then Member Bogus. Go ahead, Member Davis.
Yeah,
No, you're okay.
I think the conversation's, really good for clarity, and I think it's just important to note that no matter where anyone goes ever, they are legally, when they are teaching in the state of Utah, responsible for these things. The LEAs must train them and teach them that they are responsible for these things, regardless of any other places they go or people they talk to or things they hear anywhere else.
Hold on, Member Bogus, and then Member.
Thank you. So I agree with Member Klein in many capacities. However, we can't tell teachers they can't go to a training. We can tell them whether or not we will pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong, but maybe that's where she's going. But there are a lot of trainings that teachers attend, and they have every right to do so. This is America. But what we pay for in our LEAs should be consistent with the law. So if we're receiving LEA or state board funding for professional development, that training should be consistent with the law. But I have a great issue with telling people, hey, you just can't take this training. That just seems weird to me. So I think that's my comment right now, and I may have an amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Member Klein.
I totally agree, and that's why I didn't address it, because when you think about that, we have the right to go and be a part of whatever we want. It is a free country in that way. But we also, to your point, to Member Bogus's point, state funds shouldn't be paying for it. Our contracted associations that receive state funding, like the USBA or the UEA, they should be held to these too, if they're receiving money from the education budget. The other point is, what I'm trying to address in here as well, is that you have all kinds of curriculum and materials through the ed tech, and whether it's curriculum or platforms that students are increasingly using that come from outside of Utah, that don't have any way to modify what they are offering based on what our specific law says, and yet so it's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So how do you rein that in and make sure? I mean, it's one thing to tell a teacher they can't instruct in these things, but there's nothing that says the teacher can't, or isn't forced to use a platform or ed tech company that brings these things to the students because the teachers are becoming more and more facilitators of tech instead of giving direct instruction. So that is why my motion, I hold to what it is.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Are you ready? Seeing no other comments, let's vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Member Green. Member Green is a yes. We're missing two. We're actually missing one. You? Okay. Yeah, he's gone. He's gone. Yeah.
Not Matt, the person with the face.
Okay, so that fails 12 to 2, which makes 14. Okay, yeah. And the yes votes are Green and Klein. All right, back to Member Klein. Hold on.
A letter E to section 1. So 1E, that would, about line 14 is where it would be added. And it would read section, as part of the authority of the rule, section 53G 10-206, which requires the board, LEAs, and superintendent to ensure that instructional materials and classroom instruction are consistent with certain principles of educational freedom. It would be put in right after line 11. Would be an addition. E. It would add an E. Or I guess it would be, yeah, line 15, after line 15.
So basically, yep. All right, do we have a second? Yes. Second from Bogus. Speak to the motion.
I think it's important to reference the code that surrounds these issues and defines those and requires us to act to ensure that that our materials and classroom instruction are consistent with that piece of code. The code is 50.
Yeah. All right, do we have any other comments, questions? All right, seeing none, let's vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Member Green. Yep, so voting is closed. That passes 9-5, with the noes being Member Straight, Member Hart, Member Norton, Member Reel, and Member Lear. So, next. Oh, sure.
Can I ask a point of clarification? When we say superintendents, LEAs, boards, doesn't that all fall under LEAs? And if not, shouldn't we be putting in charter directors?
Well, so when generally, correct me if I'm wrong, but generally when we refer to the superintendent, we're talking about Dr. Dixon. and her staff. Yeah, yeah. And then charters would be under LEAs, I believe, because they are an education agency. All right, go ahead. You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. All right, I move to unstrike classroom instruction and amend the definition as follows. Classroom instruction means any instruction or information to a student, including direct teaching, course material, unit, class, lesson, activity, or presentation.
Can you tell me where this is? What line?
It's in the definitions and line 22.
Thank you. All right. Do we have a second? I'm sorry. Do we have a second? Okay, second by Member Carey. Member Carey, do you have?
Just a point of, for the maker of the motion, do we know where classroom instruction is referenced in the actual rule?
The previous motion just added it, referenced it, classroom instruction.
Okay, hold on. Was that your answer?
I think it's in one of my other motions that's
Okay.
coming as
Okay,
well.
so it's in that motion and other motions.
Thank you,
All
Vice
right,
Chair.
member, okay. All right, seeing no other, okay. Go for it.
So if it pleases the maker of the motion and the body, I would love to entertain where it will be used before I entertain the definition, or to entertain them at the same time.
So the first place it's used is what we just approved.
Yes, but that's in the header, and unless it's used in the actual body of the rule itself, a definition isn't necessarily needed.
You're saying the E is the header?
The E would be in the authority and purpose.
Okay.
And so I would love to entertain this definition, but if we don't have usage of the word, I'm inclined to vote against it. And so I would just ask the maker of the motion if we could do them together.
So
I'm wondering.
Thank you.
I have a mic. Okay. So I would add to the motion these two amendments. The first one is to amend lines 89 and 90 as follows. The professional learning, course standards, classroom instruction, and materials provided by the superintendent or an LEA may not include, and then that's the end of that amendment. You'd have to look at the lines 89 and 90 to see what follows that, since it ends with the word include. And then the next motion that includes it is amends lines 144 and 145 as follows. The professional learning, course standards, classroom instruction, and materials provided by the superintendent or an LEA shall be done in accordance with all state and federal laws. And I'll just glance.
Do we
make sure
have
there
a
wasn't
second
another one.
on that motion? Second?
Yeah.
Member Davis, while you're looking, Member Davis?
Yeah, I feel like this rule is to provide training on anti-discriminatory and harassment practices, and not to teach critical race theory and the things that are in 261. And we had a debate earlier about getting it bigger and bigger and bigger into classroom. I mean, it's the language is there to encompass all of this, and now we're going in and putting all the specifics in again. And I just think it's going to get all convoluted. And I'm on the prevailing side. If I need to go back and take out the reference, I wanted to put the reference in to the earlier spot, but I don't want to now start changing all of the language and getting it wordier and wordier and wordier and wordier.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I'm stalling. Member Bogus? Okay. She made it one motion. She made it all one. So, so she's gonna need time to type it anyway. Okay, hold on. Okay, Member Bogus has the floor.
So,
Hold on, Member Bogus. We'll get everybody's attention. Thank you.
so I have some consternation, and maybe it's unwarranted consternation, but I have it just the same. One is we just struck federal laws because it was kind of ambiguous and it's inerrant in what our teachers should be doing. We should not be training people in contravention to the law. And so that seems to me to be duplicative. I don't know. And then I don't disagree with the amendments as they're written, but if we're going to cite 206, this is the direction we have to head. Because 206 is a big, large umbrella and it's all encompassing. And so when we cite 206 in this rule, that means we've got to go there. And so to that end, I would argue in favor of the motion because once you bring in 206, you bring in a big umbrella. So I would argue in favor of the motion with the understanding that we're going to go there. Because I think if we're going to bring it in, we need to go there. And since we're here because of that, we should probably go there. Thank you.
Member Davis?
Yeah, maybe someone can help me with where all this is, but I think the citations of a lot of these laws are just citations to the piece that's in the rule that needs to be included in the training. They're not citing the law in and then saying, now this particular training has to be about all of the different things in that law. The rule is saying you need to train on this, and this is where the citation comes where you can also find it in a law. But so I guess, I don't know, Member Bogus, I guess that's my question, because if there's like 500 pages of 750, I mean, and this would be, the whole school year would take, you know what I mean? So I think we have to clarify. I think this is getting way out of control. And if we want to really focus in on the things that we've included in this, which is the anti-discrimination and harassment, and also the 261 prohibited discriminatory practices. Those are the very narrow things that this training requires. So if we need to go back and take the reference out, well, I move that we go back and take the reference out.
Oh, dear. Okay.
I mean,
Sorry,
because if it's
that
going to
was
put all
uncalled
this
for.
in and we're
I
going to
just
do
wasn't expecting you to-
3,000 pages of training, then I don't see any other way out at this point.
Okay, so, that is,
It's understood,
Is-
it's legal,
are
but
you-
it's not in this training. We train on it 5,000 pages.
so are you presenting a thought or are you presenting a motion?
I,
There can be no motion because we're still entertaining.
Oh, wait.
it would
there-
be it would be a call to reconsider because
It would be, but is that what you're doing right now, or are we moving forward with this first?
I guess I'll just, I mean, if we want to leave a reference in there, just to have a reference in there, but if all this doesn't pass, I won't reconsider it. But
Okay.
But maybe I
Then-
need to, because then it would just take all this. It's just, this is one training on 3 things, really.
Why don't you think about that, and we'll go to Member Lear.
And I think it's presumptuous because classroom instruction is in the citation for the board to decide how to define it. And I think if the legislature wanted to define it because it's in their code, then we look to that. Otherwise, we take it at face value. You read the plain language of the law. And I don't think we need to put in we don't need to put a definition in of every phrase and every word that's part of the code that's cited.
All right, thank you. I see no other lights. That means that we are voting on this motion. This motion has a definition of classroom instruction. This motion would unstrike classroom instruction and amend the definition as follows. 2, classroom instruction means any instruction or information to a student, including direct teaching, course material, unit, class, lesson, activity, or presentation. Motion number 3, the professional learning, core standards, classroom instruction, and materials provided by the superintendent or an LEA may not include. And number 5 would, lines 144 and 145 would be amended to say 5, the professional learning core standards, classroom instruction, and materials provided by the superintendent or an LEA shall be done in accordance with all state and federal laws. Please vote.
Green is a yes.
Thank you, Member Green. I have to. Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. All right, yeah, the voting is done. That fails 11-4 with the yes votes being Member Green, Member Carey, Member Bogus, Member Klein. All right. I gotta add myself to the list now. All right. Do you have another one, Member Klein?
Yes. No. All right, just trying to see what we've covered already. Kind of jumped around.
Yeah.
Instruction,
Okay.
Okay, yes, okay, so I would move to amend lines 165 through 171 as follows. So, I don't know if you can put that up there. So you can see, does someone have that one? Okay, all right, so it would add where in place of the stricken the blue stricken language, it would add the part in green. So it would read, no part of this rule shall be construed by an LEA or an educator to prohibit or ban discussions of events, ideas, attitudes, beliefs, or concepts except for those expressly prohibited in this rule. And yeah, I think that's all of it.
The motion's been made. Is there a second? Okay, we've got a second. First, would you like to speak to your motion or hear the amendment first?
She can make the amendment, that's
Okay.
fine.
Go ahead, Member Bogus.
I would move to amend the lines expressly, except for those expressly prohibited in this rule, or in 53G-10-206, and 53 Halls Code 204, 201. I don't know what the code is. I knew it a minute ago. Let me look one more second. Halls Code is 53G-2-104.
All right, the motion to amend is to add after.
No, I'm not unstriking anything. I'm just adding after rule the words or in those two codes.
Okay. The motion is to amend to add after rule, except for those expressly, wait. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I'm reading it wrong. To add after, except for those expressly prohibited in this rule, quote, or in 53G 10206 and 53G 104, 53G 2 104. I got it. Thank you. Did we have a second? And Member Klein will second that. Comments to the motion? Speaking to the motion.
So I would speak to the motion to amend in as much as there's a lot in the 206 code that we don't include in this rule, but we reference it. So I think we need to loop it back and put it in. And I don't think we should copy and paste.
Just reference it. Okay. Seeing no other lights, let's move that to a vote. It is yes. So what we are voting on is the motion to amend the amendment to add after, quote, except for those expressly prohibited in this rule, add or in sections 53G-10-206 and 53G 104. Voting is open. Member Green.
Yes.
Okay, did you get?
So I just need a clarification.
Okay.
When I'm sorry, Board Member Bogus. What part of 53G 104 are we saying yes to? Is it the success pieces? Is that were listed earlier? Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand exactly because that's code I'm not in and out familiar with.
So we are prohibiting that which is prohibited in the rule and in those two code lines.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's whatever is prohibited in this rule and in those two sections. Yes.
So our rule's going to prohibit what's already prohibited in the laws.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
It just, for me, it just provides a roadmap of where to go to see what I'm prohibiting.
Right.
Okay, because
Well, you can try. We can see if there's,
I
well,
object.
we're already voting. Yep.
Can I offer a technical change once we're done?
We can probably, well, it depends on if
How
it's
technical?
a technical change or not. Hold on. There you go.
Just to be clear, I'm just looking, and it does talk about the prohibited training, which has to do with the discriminatory practices, and then okay, so I just wanted to make sure that's what you're referring to, right?
The prohibited training.
Yes, the prohibited, yeah.
Okay.
The prohibited is the modifier.
Yep. Okay, so we've got 11 up there. Let's get to 15.
So if acceptable without objection, oh, we're voting, never mind. But I would like to move,
Hold on, let's get a vote. Be straight. And who? Norton? Wood?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm
Others
abstaining
did.
because I haven't found 53G-2-104. I would love to know what it says.
Okay, member, Earl, Vice Chair Earl, where did you find that in 102?
Okay, 102 or 104?
I mean, 104, I'm sorry, 104.
I'm looking at line 530 if you're looking at the 261 bill. It's new code.
Can we get, oh, look, yeah, that passed. Yeah. Well, that would be appropriate for an amendment. So let's just,
I think she was only amending that top part. It didn't have to do with this. She was adding to the.
she's adding words. Nope, she's adding words. We still have that.
May I offer to our staff?
Hold on. I am going to
Read out the
close
vote.
this out by reading out the vote. This passes yes, 12 yeses, 1. Oh, what is your, are you the abstain? Now you're a yes. Okay. So it is now 13 yeses, 2 noes, and the noes were Reel and Lear. Okay, so that vote is completed. Now, do you want to offer a technical change? Okay.
Thank you. After I looked at that for a while, I think it would be more grammatically correct if our staff could just change without objection, expressly prohibited in this rule, comma, sections, dot, and dot.
Okay.
The or in
So-
doesn't necessarily need to be there.
Can you just make that a compound, maybe, sentence? I don't know.
they choose to, I just think technically it's.
One, comma, another, comma, and there. Using the Oxford comma.
I don't like Oxford commas.
Too bad. Okay, so next motion, Member Klein, please.
So my next motion is, would be to add subsection C below line 171. And it would read, and again, this is under prohibition, so it would be prohibitive. Allow for differential treatment of individual students based primarily or solely on disaggregated group data.
Hold. I
Okay, yep,
jumped
you're
ahead
right.
again. I'm sorry. I have a tendency. All right, let's go to the original motion now. The amendment passed, so the motion will be to amend lines 165 through 171 as follows. 2, no part of this rule shall be construed by an LEA or educator to A, prohibit or ban discussions of events, ideas, attitudes, beliefs, or concepts, except for those expressly prohibited in this rule, sections 53G10 206 and 53G2 104, and B, prohibit oh, that's already there. Okay, so that is the underlying motion as amended. Please vote.
I'm sorry, I can't see that very well from here, and it's not right there. So all of the language about, from the general sharing and participation in the marketplace of ideas, all that is struck.
That is still struck.
But it was struck in an earlier motion?
It was struck. It was struck in an earlier version.
Not draft 2.
It's not in draft 2.
It is in draft 2. It-
Right, right.
So when was it struck?
It
is
was-
in draft 2.
If we, at the end of all this, adopt draft 2, you will
Looking at
accept.
draft 2. It's not struck in draft 2.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Struck it though. Oh, the purple part. Yes, that would be what we're voting on.
What we're voting on right now to strike that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. That is part of our
Kind
motion.
of lost the thread. It's been a few 502-3.
It is, it
206s,
is,
you
and
know.
I have to get, okay. so
Purple is
Purple is yours.
and green.
Purple is yours, green is Bogus's.
We already covered the purple part. Oh, I should be on my next. So I have a next.
Right.
For my own clarification, I do believe I know, but I, Member Wood, did you look up 10202 and 10206?
Okay.
Didn't I recall that you just looked those up? Oh, the other one? 10202 and 10206. I'll go look for them real fast.
Okay. Hold on, we have a habit of not using our mics the later it gets. Go ahead, Member Davis.
Would the motion maker consider it friendly to present those as two separate amendments so that we don't have to divide the question and take time?
It's already been amended.
So if
So
we
you
want to
would have
vote for
to
Member
do-
Bogus's, then we also have to strike down all that other stuff?
No, you have to amend the
Oh,
amendment
jeez.
because we
I'd
just
like to
voted
amend
to
the amendment.
accept the amendment.
I didn't understand. Did we just vote to strike out all that?
No,
My gosh.
yeah, go ahead.
This.
Go ahead.
I failed to address the stricken out part because I didn't realize that that was part of
Okay.
mine. But that, it doesn't need to be there because we already covered it in that amendment, the B, the constitutionally protected part of, that we already approved. That's covered in that constitutionally protected speech. So
Okay.
unless it's expressly prohibited, it's free game. So it's just unnecessary.
Okay, so that qualifies as speaking to the motion, the part of the motion that we didn't do earlier. So do we understand what we're voting on? Or? We are in the middle of a vote, so you will have to vote on the prevailing side and bring it back. Thank you. Okay, you can do another amendment after this goes. Right? Yes.
Are we taking votes? I'm so.
Yes, the votes are back open, Member Green. I'm sorry. Can you see what the
No, that's
amendment?
okay. I
Can you-
can, I'm a yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're voting on the amendment. The things that are highlighted in blue.
Carol,
Highlighted.
Member Lear,
Member Lear?
will you put for Emily for yes in
Yeah.
favor, please? Thank you.
Jim? Would you vote? Yes. So that fails with the vote of 10 noes to 5 yeses. The 5 yeses are Vice Chair Earl, Member Carey, Member Green, Member Klein, Member Bogus. I think we are.
Yes.
All right, so we're back to the original language. Oh, yeah, Member Klein, how many more do you have? We still have, Bogus, Norton, and Carey. We can go to, limiting conversation to 1 comment, or we can do a 2-minute. All right, Member Klein, your next one? Well, that failed, so we're just moving forward.
Again.
don't
Okay,
think
so
so.
my next motion would be on what I read before, on to add subsection C below line 171 to read, allow for differential treatment of individual students based primarily or solely on disaggregated group data. And again, this is under the prohibited section.
Do we have a second? The motion,
Is there a second?
is there a second?
This is under the prohibitions.
Yes, is,
But I would like to hear.
is,
Yes.
are you
Explanation.
seconding?
Yes, I would second it, but I want to hear the.
Okay. Can you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, so a lot of the work that we do, like if there was this B that's just before that, says that that you can't prohibit disaggregation of data based on personal identity characteristics to meet state and federal requirements, including those in sections, and it gives 2 sections. So according to federal law, we have to disaggregate data by groups. But that doesn't mean that we have to treat individuals differently based on group data, because we do a lot of disaggregating by different groups, and then we make assumptions or stereotypes about groups or about individuals based on the group that they fall in, and that itself is not fair, because you will always have more disparities or differences between individuals within groups than between groups, because you could have, a very wealthy, very academically talented Black student and a very poor white student that has lots of issues, and just because they fall in a group that may make it look like they are on a different, if you take a broad brush based on the group they fall in, you may make assumptions about that student that are incorrect.
Okay.
And so this is just eliminating that.
Disaggregation.
You just can't treat students differently or individual students differently based primarily or solely on the disaggregated data from their particular group that they fall in. You have to look at the individual.
Okay. Member Earl?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how you would, I just, whether that takes place or not, it would be hard to show that that's taking place or not. And I'm just saying, because we do primarily things based on individual students, which most of this is based around, and we're out of the group language for that very reason. And I think that the law itself speaks to that. So to me, I don't know how you would show that. That's why I'm trying to figure out what you're saying and see if it's relevant, but I'm not really seeing where you could prove that it's, does it make sense? Like, this person's here because of the group data instead of what the individual needed, because that's where we're focused. Even though we use the group information, like 3rd graders, right? We may say 3rd graders got this %, but we don't, we make the adjustments based on the individual or the needs, right, but that's what we make. Well, we're not into groups. That's why we changed it earlier. It's back to the individual.
Don't use data based on groups to determine how we treat an individual student.
Okay.
Otherwise, we could be being discriminatory or holding them back. Thomas Sowell, for example, he's brilliant, and when he would go to try and get a job at a law firm, they assumed that his scores were high because he had been treated differently, not because, and they figured he wasn't as smart as his scores showed. Does that make sense? And so they were making assumptions about him based on how many that fall in his group were treated by giving them different advantages or not. And so if we treat every student as an individual and we treat them the same, and then they can achieve on their own merit and not have people question if they got in because of the color of their skin or or something like that, which actually causes barriers to be put up for them.
Okay, Member Davis, please. No? Member Bogus, please.
I don't think I wanted my mic
Okay.
on.
Thank you. Let's go to a vote on this, please. All right.
Green is a yes.
Member, there you go. Thank you, Member Green. You beat me to it. All right, there we go. So that passes 8-7. The noes being Member Reel, Member Straight, Member Davis, Member Booth, Member Norton, Member Hart, whoop, and somebody else. Member Lear. No, that was 7. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Member Klein, how many more do you have? Let's get Member Bogus, some of Member Bogus's. Yeah,
She finishes.
okay, all right.
Because otherwise, my amendments may not make sense.
Okay, all right, fair enough. She has 3 more. Okay, Member Norton, did you want to ask your question right now?
Yes, and this could be a question that was answered at the beginning, in the middle, right now, or at the end. I just want to know if the overall draft has been looked at by legal, and does this align with code?
Okay. Has legal looked over the AAGB? Okay, so no, it has not. No, that's the answer to your question. All right. Member Bogus, how many do you have? Okay, and Member Carrie, how many do you have?
3.
Okay.
4 subsections.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Member Norton. I'm looking at
Klein.
Member Klein.
Thank you. Okay, I would move to amend line 174 as follows. It starts, has an important governmental interest, and then I add, including protecting the safety and privacy of individuals on the basis of sex, consistent with section 63G 31301, or, I guess or was already there, but. Okay, and yeah. I know Member Earl mentioned that this phrase referenced, I think, sports specifically, so that could be another addition that could be added, another reference, if she would want.
Okay. So do we have a second? We do.
Second.
Okay, hold on. Member Green, no, you're fine.
Can we hear about it before they second it, or
Mm-mm.
seriously against, then I'm just gonna keep seconding.
Well, if you're not into the idea, please don't second it.
Yeah, so,
But,
To know whether or not I'm into it.
Member Green seconded, and now you
Yes.
get to hear about it.
okay, in the bill, HB 257 that just passed, Representative Birkeland's, there's a section for protecting the privacy of students based on their sex. For schools specifically, there's a section in that piece of code. And so it simply is a reference to that, to make sure that that's included in an important governmental interest to protect those sex designated privacy spaces.
Okay. Any comments? Member Lear?
I'm just wondering, maybe to the maker of the motion, why you'd single out one compelling governmental interest.
Okay. Would the maker of the motion like to address that?
Why? Why would you choose one compelling governmental interest?
Because it's one that just passed in law, and it's an important one in order to, because it's just in law. It just passed, so we.
Like 850 other important governmental interests.
Member Lear.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Let's take it to a vote.
Can I ask a clarifying question before you vote?
Absolutely. Well, yes, because the voting hasn't opened yet.
I'm sorry. Well, I just was wondering, I mean, we're making the rule, you know, towards a bill and now two, and we've also referenced another new law. So I think it seems that this is applicable in my opinion, but anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah. Voting is open.
I mean, yes.
Member Lear. Yes for Member Green. Thank you. Two more? One more? Okay, that fails 11-4 with the yeses being Carrie, Bogus, Green, Klein. Member Earl, do you have
Yeah, I just had a comment because I just looked down where we are in 328 because I wanted to read that before voting here. But the reason why it has an important governmental interest is pulled out and not added to is because they defined it specifically in 261. So it has a very specific definition, and I don't know adding to that. But then it says right after that, which is where Board Member Klein's thing would apply, where she was saying that and speaking to Board Member Lear, is complying with state or federal law. I'm just saying it falls under that category of federal law, of state law. So it doesn't exclude that provision. Well, thank you for rhetorical. No, I'm just correlating it. So sorry, I shouldn't have used your name then. There was someone that spoke that I'm trying to correlate it with. That has an important governmental interest. The only reason why we include it because it did reference that within the code that just 261. So that's the reason.
Okay, Member Klein?
Okay, I would move to amend line 179 as follows, striking out the first two lines and then adding the superintendent shall submit an annual report to the board that the professional learning core standards and materials provided by the superintendent are consistent with this rule and 53G 10206.
Okay, do we have a second? Member Bogus? Would you like to speak to your motion?
I would just say that it would be helpful for us as a board to have that report, and that would provide some kind of feedback for us and regular oversight to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to ensure that professional learning and core standards and materials that we provide to the field are consistent with this rule and the provisions of state law.
Okay, comments? Member Lear? We can come back to you. Member, oh. Oh, you're waiting. I'm sorry.
This time it wasn't me. I don't need one more report from Superintendent Dixon. I'm assured that if there's a problem, she'd bring it to our attention.
Okay, thank you. Member Straight? Oh, I'm sorry, Member Bogus.
So I understand that the annual insurance is already in code. And so I would understand this to read that we're not actually taking that away because we can't. We're just creating a report to the board that tells us about what's going on, kind of promoting transparency. I guess I would like to query the maker of the motion.
You can ask and I can ask, but the maker of the motion does not have to answer.
Okay, well, that's what I would ask.
What? No, go ahead with your
What I
question.
just said.
I know, but I wasn't paying attention very well.
Okay, so we're striking the line, shall submit shall submit an annual assurance, but we can't nullify code, so that would still remain. So we're replacing those lines with transparency upward toward the board, that we get the information that is coming up through those assurances, or I guess I don't
Okay.
fully understand. As this is written, maybe I'm missing something, maybe
Okay.
I'm misreading it through this microphone. I don't
Okay.
know, I just don't
Okay.
fully understand.
Can you offer some, or would you like to offer some clarity, Member Klein?
So according to Superintendent Stallings, she said that the assurances is something that LEAs do, not that the board has, or the superintendency has never done anything with assurances. That's strictly something for LEAs. Is that correct? Yes. So that's why it's just a report that the superintendent would give. And again, there are trainings happening at the LEA level by LEA personnel, and there are trainings that are happening at our level by our staff to those in the field. And so both, if we want one, if we expect LEAs to submit an annual assurance, it would be good to also have that from our side as well, so that we are covering our bases. And you can see my next motion up there is similar to that.
Okay, does that
But for the
answer
LEAs.
does that answer your question, Member Bogus?
It does answer my question.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, we move to a vote. On Member Klein, motion to add subsection 6 below, yeah. Wait, no, we're doing, I'm sorry, no, 5. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the one that's highlighted, yes. Yes. Voting is open on the motion to amend line 179 as follows. The superintendent shall submit an annual report to the board that the professional learning, course standards, and materials provided by the superintendent are consistent with this rule and 53G 10206.
But it's more than that. We're actually striking the provision.
And we're striking,
Okay.
yes, an
That's-
LEA shall submit an
So that's the
annual
problem.
insurance to the board that the LEA's professional learning is consistent with this rule and 53G, yes. Member Green, did you say your vote? Member-
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we're in the middle of a vote.
I'm a yes.
To make it two different things. It was all mine to begin with, and then they struck
Okay.
so they could break it
it's-
out. So superintendent
it
was
is-
separate from LEA.
It is important to note that the next amendment addresses the LEA.
So it's not just taking that out.
Yeah,
It just was,
that is
they
a
just broke it up into two different
Yes.
pieces.
That's it. I think that's a good clarification.
No, that was never the intent. It's in my next motion. They just broke it up into two motions. Just for rewording's sake, but it's not taking anything away.
Did,
Did I vote? Did it?
where are we missed? We're done? Okay. That motion fails 11-4. The yeses are Bogus, Carey, Green, Klein. All right.
All right, my final motion is to add subsection 6 below line 180 to read, an LEA shall submit an annual assurance as required by 53G 10206.
Okay. Do we have a second? Yes. Second by. Second by.
Okay, so are we doing this green one on the bottom?
Yes.
So then why would we need that if the other motion failed? I'm asking, I'm trying.
Because it's worded differently? I don't know.
Well, we probably don't need it if that's because it's not struck anymore because
Okay.
it didn't pass.
All right.
So,
Sounds good.
good job.
All right. No, does anyone object to that withdrawal? I don't think we actually. Okay, it wasn't seconded. All right. Member Bogus. You are up.
Okay, so could we go from the bottom to the top maybe, Angie? I'd like to start at the beginning and move to amend line 16 through 19. Yes, please, if possible. So I move that the board amend line
Just a second. You don't have everybody's attention. Okay, can we get everybody's attention, please? Thank you. No, it's okay. I just want a quorum. All right, go ahead, Member Bogus.
I would move to amend line 16 through 19 to read as follows, and hopefully you can track that information. It does come out of draft 2, and it would ultimately read that the purpose of this rule is to direct LEAs to use Utah State Code with regard to instruction, training, coaching, evaluation, or professional learning of instruction or administrative personnel aligned to sections 53G-10-206 and 53G-2-104.
Second by Member Klein. So,
It could say of, if I would not oppose that. I'm not going to force us where it says professional learning to, maybe a professional learning of.
yeah.
That is
would be-
totally fine. I'm
okay.
not going to force us into
You
a vote on
said
that.
of, so I figured,
Okay.
yeah.
And with a second, I would be happy to speak
Yeah,
to
you
the
already
motion.
have a second, so go and speak to it.
So if you look at the vast majority of this rule, we copy and paste code. And so I think that we need to realize that we're really trying hard to direct our LEAs back to code. And ultimately, the green words there come from 53G-10-206. So it takes that umbrella that's present in 206 and it puts us right here in the authority and purpose and brings us back to what that code is about: instruction, training, coaching, evaluation, or professional learning of those two personnel as defined in the codes. So that would be, I would put the motion to the body. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member Klein, did you want to speak to this? Did you want to speak to this one?
No, I agree.
Okay. All right, then are you ready to put it to a vote? All right, voting is open. Member Green, voting is open. Can you see it, or would you like me to read it into the record?
I can see it. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Okay. We're missing two. we're missing, oh, there we go. All right, so that fails 9 yeses, 5 nos, 1 abstain. The abstention is Member Davis. The yeses is Carrie, Klein, Green, Bogus, and Hymus. All right, next up. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think I made that one member. I don't need to strike those lines.
But do you still want to add the definition?
Oh, no, I do need to strike those lines, but I guess it would be 27 because 22 to 26 is already there. So maybe I mistyped. I apologize. And add the following definition. So ultimately, it would be removing those lines and adding the following definition of professional learning.
All right, the motion on the table is to strike lines 27 through 42 and add the following definition. 1, professional learning means teacher training, professional development, coaching, remediation, and counseling of any administrative or instructional personnel as defined in 53G 10206. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Member Hymus. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, ma'am. I think it goes without saying that we ultimately don't need some of these things. We've made amendments, and then I think as we're talking about professional learning, we should probably define what that is. And with that, I would offer that I have a motion, and if I need to loop it into this to make it make sense, I do have a motion to restore the lines that would make HR issues HR issues. So if I need to bring that back, then and conclude it in this, I absolutely, Superintendent Stallings has the language, and I'd be happy to pull it together.
Okay. Member Wood? Sorry?
When we explicitly voted to, and the vote to strike inclusion failed, can that now be brought back again? Right, that failed.
Oh.
That we specifically voted on that.
So we already voted on that, so no, you cannot bring that back.
Well,
Did we vote on those exact lines? Can someone look back and see if those were the exact lines? If it's different lines, we're good.
so even though it includes that we voted to strike inclusion and that failed.
Right, but were they the exact lines? Yes, will you please say on the record what we did already vote on in terms of inclusion?
Yeah. Okay, so Member Klein did have an amendment to one of Member Hymus's amendments. Member Hymus's amendment was originally to strike lines 70 through 75. Member Klein made an amendment to the amendment to strike lines 70 to 71, add ensuring before line 73, and strike the definition of inclusion.
So the definition of inclusion was included in that. Then we can't bring it back unless somebody votes that voted on the prevailing side. And that would need to be a separate, so. But it includes the exact same thing that was in a different motion. We already voted on part of it, so we need to.
Did anyone divide that motion? No, because without a division, it's a different motion.
You can't subsume a part of just to make it a different motion. You would need to take out the part that we already voted on and vote on the other. And then whoever was on the prevailing side can bring back that part.
Vice Chair.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry, yes. You're on.
Oh, thank you. Just a point of clarification then. So the definition of inclusion that was struck, it's my understanding those were in line 70 or 74, but the definition of inclusion as reflected in the actual draft are lines 33 through 36.
Okay, so it's different lines?
What I thought Ms. James just said that it was line
70 through 74 were definition.
This amending, and then the inclusion, it was a separate of striking definition.
But then it referenced
I never voted.
right. So I don't think we actually addressed this particular definition. So I look at it
so
as
we
a
didn't
separate
strike
matter.
the definition of
You're saying
inclusion?
the motion was never just to strike the definition, so this is a different.
Correct. There are different lines that were
Okay,
referenced.
they're
in-
different lines.
It includes the same lines, but also other stuff, right?
Does it include the same lines, or is it,
Definition of inclusion is that definition that Member Vargas is referencing.
so this,
Also included other lines too.
okay, so regardless of the fact that it included others, it did include these lines in particular? Yes, then we're not going to do that unless somebody on the prevailing side, because that's a very dangerous precedent. If we just add more to it and then say it's a different motion, we could be here a long time. So what I advise is we can either not do this, or we can limit it to what hasn't been considered, and then somebody from the prevailing side can bring this back if they would like. Yes.
a breakdown of who was on the prevailing
Sure,
side?
sure. Can you read out,
The actual motion and then,
Yeah,
thank you,
absolutely.
Vice Chair. And if that's going to take a bit, may we take a break?
I don't, is it gonna take a bit? Okay. They are.
So either it can be amended to do the lines minus this, and then someone could bring it back.
That's true.
Or she can choose not to do it at all, but
We would have,
vote on one of those.
we would have to finish with this motion first, and then we would have to bring it back. We can still give you the information, but it wouldn't be part of this motion. Yep. Go ahead. Can you read into record who voted on that? We can share the information, and then they can make a decision.
Okay. On Member Klein's amendment to the amendment, which included strike the definition of inclusion, that motion failed with 6 in favor, 9 against, and the no votes, so those on the prevailing side would be Vice Chair Hart, Member Lear, Member Hymas, Member Straight, Member Norton, Member Reel, Member Wood, Member Booth, and Member Davis.
Okay, so now let's move forward, or what would you like to do?
Superintendent Stallings to break up the change in the motion, the substitute or.
Okay.
Well, whatever, I think this is number 2.
Well,
I think there's 7. They combined them. And if you want to pull the definition of inclusion, I don't care. We can battle that out later.
all right, so the motion on the floor is to strike lines 27 through 29 and add the following definition. 1, professional learning means A, teacher training, professional development, coaching, remediation, and counseling of any administrative or instructional personnel as defined in 53G 10-206 and the same as the term defined in 53G 11-303. Did we have a second?
Matt seconded it.
Okay, Matt, Hymas,
He would
is your
have to
second
affirm.
still good? No, striking lines 27 through 29 that exist already. They are below for your reference. It's the definition of equal.
Yeah.
So, is there a second?
I will second it.
Okay,
Yeah, Matt already did.
well, You did again too? Okay, thanks. All right, now she gets to speak to her motion and then you get to comment.
Okay, so I think first of all, if we're talking about professional learning, we should define it, and I'm just directing us back to code with regard to that. And then, I don't see this other thing ever used in here at all, so I don't know why we have a definition for it.
I think because it's the title of the bill.
Required equal.
Well, I understand that, but where in our other rules do we define the title?
Hold on.
And I'm asking a question, I'm not being rhetorical.
Right, okay, well, I don't know the answer to that, so hold on. Member Klein? Because I don't know who would answer.
So that was, to strike that definition was actually one of my motions that I skipped over on accident. And my rationale for that is that we don't need a definition for the phrase, because if it's the title of the rule itself becomes the definition of the title. The rule itself, the different parts of the rule define what the title means. So we don't
Okay.
need a separate
So,
independent
okay.
definition.
okay, Ms. Nui?
Thanks. Elise Newing, Policy Advisor. So equal opportunity in education is used in the text on lines 50 and 51, just
Okay.
as reference.
All right, there you go. It's on 50 and 50 and 1. It's not just the title. All right, so we now have a motion on the floor. Any other comments? All right, let's go to a vote. A vote, please. Voting is open. Member Green, voting is open.
I'm a yes.
Did you get a yes? Okay. All right, the voting is closed. That fails 11-4. The yeses being Member Bogus, Member Hymas, Member Green, Member Klein. All right, Member Bogus, your next motion, please.
Superintendent Stallings is gonna pull it. We just need to give them time. They're
Yep.
working hard.
Sure.
So I just need to bring to the attention, we have, we may need to take a break and come back to this. That's why I asked how many more Member Bogus had. We have our math people, we have some professors that have been here since 2:30 or something. And we may need to see if we can postpone this till after dinner, so we can address those people that have been waiting here. If, anyways, so I don't know, what would I need to make? What kind of motion? I would just make a motion that we postpone until after dinner. And that we, on our agenda, we move to the math standards, or the math
All right.
recommendations.
There's a
So-
motion on the floor. Does that, it's a motion to table until after dinner? That needs a second?
Second.
Okay,
And
there's a,
it, and it has, and it's to move to the math
And-
item, just because we have people that
to
have
the
been
math.
waiting
Mhm.
this afternoon.
so postpone this item until after dinner and move to report of standard. Uh-huh. All right, so the motion on the floor is it a postpone or is it a table? It's a postpone, right? Oh, it's table?
Table.
Okay,
Yeah,
it
it's
is a table. Okay. The motion is to table the current item and move to the report of standards review and committee and board recommendations, item 12 on the agenda. We have a second. Let me know when you're ready. You're ready? Okay. Ready? Okay. Voting is open. Member Green, voting is open on motion to table. Until after dinner?
Yes.
Okay. Till after dinner today.
I thought a motion to table had to be for a motion that is coming up, not one that we're currently discussing.
Oh, do we need what's the one that's the current?
There's technically
There's a motion to table, but I thought that could only apply to a pending action.
And we're in the middle of an action?
Right.
So what's if it's in the middle of an action? Oh, it is a postpone. Okay. Would the maker of the motion be okay with changing it to postpone from a table?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Is there anybody that objects from a motion to table to a motion to postpone? Okay, let's vote. It's a postponement, not a tabling. Okay, it's fine. Okay. All right. One more vote, please. One more vote, please. Thank you. That passes unanimously. We are postponing that item so that we can move to number 12. And if the Standards Review Committee Board recommendations, who's leading out on that one? What staff is it, oh, here it is. Can we call up Lindsay Henderson, the secondary math specialist, Christina Barrera, preschool education specialist, Molly Basham, early learning mathematics specialist, and Trish French, elementary mathematics specialist, please? Or whoever is here to represent. Thank you, and our apologies for the delay. And Director of Teaching and Learning, Jennifer Thrutzen. All right, we'll need you to share microphones if you don't mind. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Go for it. I have no idea how you would do that, but feel free. Again, our apologies. I think you should work from home tomorrow.
Table is the action we have going on.
I was going to go there,
Table
but,
action
you know.
until later. Maybe I'm wrong.
All right, we are ready when you are.
All right, I will get connected.
No worries.
If it pleases the body, we'd like to start with just a review of where we are in the process, so you know what this step is. And then we'll move into 4 sections of the recommendations based on the committee and then the board members, and try and do it in chunks so we can hopefully pass large parts of it at one time. You can make small amendments or large amendments throughout those chunks, and then we would pass the rest of the chunk just to see if we can get through this today the best we can. So with that said, let me get on the internet and we'll be all set. Board Chair Moss, we have a copy of the recommendations. We thought it might be easier, having been in committee or in board before, to have a paper version in front of you of what we're doing. So if you are okay, we'd love to hand that out. Share my screen. And this is really, it's available digitally, but what I have seen is sometimes it's just nice to have a piece of paper and you can write on it and edit it and write your amendments as needed. Just going to share my screen. All right, let us begin. And I will make this larger so you can actually read it. Jennifer Thronson, Director of Teaching and Learning. I will help to facilitate just the process and the where we, here's the part we're going to offer. These folks are here more from the math expertise. So we have a couple of our review committee members as well as our staff. So if it's a math question about pedagogy or curriculum or standards, if you will allow us to field it to these experts, and I'll just do more of the standards process, try and get through the amendments and such today. So we are on step 5, which is the report of the Standards Review Committee. So we had our review committee come together, selected from the board chair, as well as the House and Senate. They all give us recommendations. We convened those stakeholders into 2 meetings. They gave their recommendations. You've had those in board backup already and have reviewed those. We also got board member input based on those recommendations and have made those, tried to take those and see where they align with the recommendations, where they differ, and give you the opportunity to make those votes. So this will be by the body. You all have to approve, at least the way that this was written, the standards review process is you will approve each recommendation. But we are hoping that we can approve multiple recommendations at once to make this process as most efficient as possible, but also get the needs of the board of what they would like the writing committee to attend to in the actual construction of standards. So specifically, we'll present a summary of the committee's comments and their recommendations to you, and then the board will accept or reject those committee recommendations. And this is different for those of you that have been on the board for a while than the past. This step is new in terms of we've always brought you the committee recommendations. You haven't approved them, you've just accepted them. In this case, you're actually going to accept or deny those recommendations so that as staff, we don't do this thing that you're like, we don't want you to do that. Do these things, so real clarity there up front when we're building the standards. The other part that's new in the process now is that you as board members got to review those recommendations and give your suggestions on whether to keep those recommendations, to change those recommendations, or to bring your own recommendations to the body. And that is what we'll try and walk you through today. So with that said, any questions on process to start?
I have a question, if I could. Are you still running?
go
You're
for it.
still in
Sure,
charge.
I was just eating carrots.
Okay. Just to be clear in terms of process. So after this, the writing committee does its work. They bring back the actual revised standards. We review in committee and then at the full board, right? Just
When
so-
we'll do public comment and all of
public
those things.
comment, all that good stuff. But this is one opportunity to weigh in. It's nowhere near the final opportunity. It's sort of giving input on the work as it gets started.
Absolutely. It
Okay.
gives direction to the writing committee. So if you're like, stay away from this, we know now instead of you having to clean it up later. All right, well, let's proceed. So in your backup, you have, and you have this in front of you. I'm going to refer to the document in front of you throughout the day. The first page are the Standards Review Committee's recommendations that there were no board member comments upon. And so the request here would be for someone to make a motion to approve these or to make amendments to these. We just didn't receive any board member edits or changes to these particular recommendations. And so we're hoping to do a bulk load of these seem okay in terms of what we've received feedback on thus far. So the first page here, until the blue section, so you'll see the green header. Those are the ones that we didn't receive any feedback from board members on, and we'll propose to you to move those forward as accepted and as presented.
Excuse me. Member Earl?
I just have a question. Tell me, we have standards are written as learning goals. Tell me the difference between, what does that really mean?
I'm going to
And is that different than writing a standard with clear objectives?
Expectation.
Yeah.
Would you mind if I defer to my math expertise? Tyler's like, he's ready. Is that all right with you? All right, love it.
So generally, standards are written for the professional, the teacher. Oh, sorry, yes. I am Tyler Haslam. I teach at Granger High School. I coach. I'm a mathematician with the Mathematics Masters. But addressing this, review committee member, that too, sorry. This is my first time being in this room. so.
Yay.
I was here last time, and it was fun watching. But so when you write standards, they're generally for the professional who reads and interprets them on a much higher level than, say, the student would or a parent would. So this recommendation was to put some language in there that would be more accessible to the general public in addition to what the teachers are given.
So what would that, I just want to know what that looks like.
Usually, so when we teach, we're supposed to have learning standards on the board, which are usually I can statements or things like this is what the student is expected to learn. Whereas the standards as written, they're very technical, very professional, very long and precise to help guide us in that direction. With the students, you probably wouldn't be as technical, as precise. You would be more in their jargon, so to speak.
Okay, so I just don't know if this convolutes our standards by starting to add other mechanisms to it. And that would be my concern here. My understanding, just from some of the things on here, is that we want clear, concise standards, right? That's what I read. There's somewhere on here, and I don't know, somewhere in this document where it says we also want standards that stakeholders can understand, and I added in additional language to that so that it was clear that when a parent read it, they could understand it too. Not that they necessarily know the math. Right, yeah. But so it's clear. So how is that? We're going to start writing it. We're going to do the standard, and then we're going to have little I cans. I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Is Green Go? Yes. Lindsay Henderson, Secondary Math Specialist at the Utah State Board of Education. It would be a recommendation to the writing committee to take that into consideration, that we needed language that was more accessible to a variety of stakeholders. And the way that this is written, the review committee's recommendations would be to leave the power to the writing committee on how to do that. But just put in there that it's a recommendation of the review committee members that we need accessible language, perhaps language that has standards as learning objectives, language that can be understood by stakeholders, not just educators with a math degree.
Okay, so that is learning goals different than, is learning goals different than making the language accessible and understandable to stakeholders?
Lindsay Henderson, Secondary Math Specialist. Oh, thank you. I'm good. One time we're done. The answer is I don't know. The review committee didn't discuss it, and they just put it across as a recommendation. But I felt like as the leader of the review committee, the consensus, and perhaps Tyler or Dr. Lee could speak to that, was that the language needed to be more accessible and not just to be understood by educators with a math degree.
Okay, I would agree with that. I just don't know if, I don't know what, still, I'm not sure what learning goals are versus making it, the language accessible to stakeholder, right, to parents or whatever. So, anyway, sorry. Okay.
So I think the difference would be the audience. So if you're making the standard more accessible to adults that are looking at it, it's still a standard. It's just plain English standard. If it's a goal, then it's written towards a student in student-friendly language. My question kind of extends on that. If you are doing that, is that compromising the standard in any way? If it's compromising the standard in any way, then I want it two separate. I would be interested in two separate, because I don't want the standards compromised just for if that's what a math teacher needs to hear, those words, in order to do what we expect them to do, then that's got to be included. But I do understand that it's got to be in clear language, because our adults are very interested in what our students are learning in math. So if we talk in a language that's not understood, we're not going to get any standards passed. So I completely understand the conundrum, but I don't want to compromise the value of them. Member Booth.
May I ask a question?
You can ask a question, and I'll ask.
I'm just wondering if we could just have just a quick review of how the standard, as it has been there for a long time, or if it's a new standard, how that standard then progresses in the process of getting it from academic standards in mathematics for the state of Utah to classroom.
Okay. Can you, kind of reminds me of how a bill becomes a law.
Yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock, can we have a song, please? Thank you. Can you really just talk about how teachers take a standard and how it ends up to be a,
Or how committees
it.
and the writing committee versus the review committee, or
Sure.
whoever's going to do it, and it'll come back to the board. But I don't think we need to be afraid of the process.
Right.
And if that's the process, it's breaking it down, figuring it out, making some recommendations, and then at the individual level, they're creating curriculum and
Maps.
and figuring out how that's all going to happen at every level. But I wanted to see in their mind. I think it would clarify the questions that are being brought up in terms of how much is this changing? Are we rewriting? Are we dumbing down? Are we what are we doing?
okay. Would you be willing to answer that,
So,
please?
and from a process standpoint, if there's, the intent of this section is like, we think we're okay, but if there's a couple of things you're like, accept all minus standards are written as learning goals, just for process, that would be the kind of motion you could make. From a learning goals perspective, so we write standards. Standards are the mathematics we want kids to know and be able to do. How teachers then implement that are, you might, you might have a standard that takes weeks to master, and even then you're spirally reviewing to make sure kids have truly mastered it. So you have daily learning goals, right, of what, for to accomplish this standard, we're going to do this part of it today. But by the end, we have this. And I think that's the challenge with standards as written as learning goals. Your learning goals is dependent on your students. It's dependent on where you are in that lesson or that unit of instruction. So as to Board Member Earl's point of view, I wonder if that might be one you want to say, let's amend, because a lot of that's where your kids are. So if I say the standard, half my class may already have that standard. We don't know the students to be able to say, here's the learning goal for you. Teachers would love us to write learning goals, I will tell you that, because it's like, they're hard to write, especially as you're learning new standards. The biggest piece of feedback we've gotten on standards over the years is, I don't know what that standard means. And that's the part that I think the committee really articulated well, like with standards are clearly defined, actionable, and formally accessible. They want standards that are clear, that can be understood, and that they can go take action and teach to kids. And so I think that's the major charge that when I look at this summary, is the clarity of what a standard is, what it means to have mastered that standard, and then we leave the teacher up to the pedagogical moves and the daily instruction needed to make that happen, which is where the learning goals come in.
It's right here. Okay, I would move we take the learning goals off, though. I worry it gets into the pedagogy. Teachers can do that. To me, that's not clear and concise. We still have the stakeholder language in here. It'll get where we need to go. And then accept the elementary and secondary ones on this first page.
Do we want to do motions right now? Okay. All right, there's a motion and there's a second by Member Hymas. A comment? Member Davis?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Member Earl saying to take out the more accessible language, because I think that's actually really helpful.
Take out the learning goals. Yeah. I think there's
Personally.
other places in here where we talk about conciseness and we talk about language access for stakeholders and parents. Yeah. So I think learning goals, I don't want these convoluted. I don't want them to start
Where's
directing
the other
pedagogy.
place where we're going to get samples of what teachers can put on, like, today I'm learning this? I mean, where is that? Where is that in the other place?
If I remember right, we do core guides, we do other things that create opportunities if people want to use it, but the standards need to be clearer and concise. That's what I would say.
So you're fine with a companion piece to it, you just don't want it written inside the standards?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and that kind of goes along still with the recommendation from the writing committee? Chair, I mean,
Yeah, I would just removing learning goals and then the rest of it's in there.
Do we want to vote on that? Okay. Yes, there's a motion on the floor to remove standards as are written as learning goals and accept the review committee recommendations. Oh, wait.
There are 14 other recommendations in that first
Yeah, that
page.
first page.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, yep. The 14 other recommendations on the first page.
Good.
How's that sound?
Great.
All right, and we had a second from Member Hymas. All right. Are you ready? Oh, okay. We pause for a moment here. Just type what's on there.
Environment where all students understand.
No, you need to focus on just. Yeah, that way you don't have to type and you can just talk.
These ones right here.
You're ready? Okay. All right, voting is open. Member Green, voting is open. Remove standards are
Yes.
written as learning goals and accept the 14 other ones. You're a yes? Okay, she's a yes. We're almost there. One more.
So I do have another question, how we're going to proceed. I just,
Who are we missing?
what are we doing next? Because are we going through each one of these? Is that, yeah,
Are you prepared to vote on this one? Uh-oh. Hold on. Then you probably need to vote no.
and I'm just wondering, I put all my recommendations together. I wonder if I move that, and if people want to take stuff off or add anything to it.
Okay, hold on.
Versus going-
Oh, okay.
Versus going, I mean, this is like 2 in the morning. I just don't know how.
Yeah. Our votes. Yes, please. The votes just disappeared, so.
I just wanted to comment that I agree with the review committee in keeping that and what Member Booth was saying about the process, but it's not a deal breaker for me, and including the 14 from the first page. I wanted to make sure I said yes on that, but I do think we need to trust the process and remember that as we go through this.
Okay, so do you have a different motion? Okay.
Can everyone revote?
And
I'm a yes, but mostly
Gotcha.
because it also included the
The
14 from
14.
the page, but I
Okay.
would have disagreed with what Member Earl was saying.
I see. Okay. All right, so we have to revote. It disappeared. You've got to revote. Well, is your vote still the same? We're at 11. Please don't make me shame you. Straight, real wood. Carrie? All right, people, one more. Member Straight, oh, okay, he's out of the room. This passes 12-2. The abstentions are Bogus and Klein. So we are to the, was there a question about the process?
I guess I'm just trying to figure out here because I'm not sure. Are we just going to go through each one and then up or down? Okay, you're chunking it and then we pull out or we add 2?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the hope. So just to try and,
Okay.
I'm trying a new way to do this. So the next section is going to go from review committee recommendations with board member suggested edits. So you'll see the RC stands for review committee. You'll see their initial response. Then if a board member had feedback, you'll see that below. So let's just look at the first one, for example. So the review committee said, create space for mathematics in depth and context, presenting content in a relevant and age-appropriate manner. Board member Earl added, this will be accomplished by clearly articulating math proficiency at each grade level, and then proficiency equals fluency with calculations, conceptual understanding, and the ability to solve problems. So she kept the recommendation and added clarity to that with her additional language. And there's some more language below. It's to give more context, and you'll see that. If there's times, like the next one is in cut, she didn't want to keep that recommendation. Is this referencing had some questions that might need to be discussed? But basically what we were hoping is we could do this section. So you'll do all the way through secondary. It's page 2 on to page 3 and into page 4 until it gets to amendments that are different than what the review. So they're like, have a different perspective. All of these are in line with them with some small additions. They're minor kind of changes or ways to enhance the clarity, whereas the other recommendations didn't have any of that feedback. So you could take it as a body and say, I want to amend this part, and then we can accept it just like we did with the standards without learning goals part, or we can go one by one. We were hopeful that there probably wouldn't be that many amendments and that we could take it as a larger body, but that will be up to this body.
Okay. Yes, I've got member Booth, member Davis, member Klein, member Lear, and then Vice Chair Earl. Oh, and then member Norton. So, thank you. Okay. I don't.
Okay.
I mean.
So a number of us submitted recommendations that I don't see reflected in here, probably because they don't match up with what the staff is trying to do. My recommendation was that we go back and we adopt the California 1997 standards, pre-Common Core. Before what is it called? Integrative math, or what's it called? My mind's a blank. But before all of these new fads were introduced into math, when math was math and kids were doing consistently well in math. And I don't know how to build off of this, because it seems like that recommendation was just ignored, even though several people made comments.
Okay.
All of your, yeah.
Okay.
So,
go,
but as
I just
far
wanna-
as the recommendations from staff, I mean, I see that it was included in here, but not within their recommendations. So, and how they're building this out. So I don't know how to amend what they have brought to
Okay.
us, because it's so different.
Okay, let's hold. Do any of the people that have their lights on address this issue? Do you have a question or a comment about this?
I do.
Let's make the comments and then I'll have you respond, just so that we can try to consolidate some of them. Okay. Go ahead with your point of information. Go ahead with Davis.
Okay, my point of information was, I thought I had understood that these were not recommendations from staff, but they were recommendations from the review committee, which are members of the field.
Okay.
Correct?
So that is a clarification that it is from the committee, not from the field. Or
And-
from the field, not from the staff. So
And
that-
then, yeah, and then my second question was, this next chunk that we're voting on up to the middle of page 4, am I understanding that these amendments were provided by member Earl, but the review committee was,
So
so they were close to what the review committee?
Okay, so hold on. We have a separate issue. I'd like to address that on the floor first. Member Norton, did you want to address the California standards issue? Okay. All right, so would you like to, can you answer this one?
Absolutely.
And then answer Member Davis's
So
question?
that's in the section that didn't cut, there was no discussion from the board, from the review committee about that. So we didn't have anything to attach it to.
Okay.
So it's in the collection that is like, this is new idea. It wasn't something that we had a connection. So you'll see the section prior is review committee said this, board member enhanced it with this. Then you have the things that didn't come up in the review committee at all, such as the 1997 California standards. So it is in there. It's just a different section because it didn't come up in the review committee conversation.
Okay, so that, and now, can you address, please, the question that Member Davis had? Do you need it repeated?
I think I understood you to say that these were kind of minor. That wouldn't cause a lot of consternation across the state for our
This just
students
added
and our
more
math
clarity
teachers.
of like, and whether you agree with board member Earl's
I thought in the
and yours.
process, we asked for board member amendments to go to the committee to come back with an opinion of the amendments from the field. But is that in a later step in the process after writing
It's
committee?
never part of the current process. So
Yes,
it-
I know we amended the process.
Oh, when we get to the writing committee,
That's
when
where
there's
it is.
standards, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Then I move that we adopt these up through page 4.
Okay. Did you want to give some clarity? What are you seconding? Oh, can you repeat the motion, please?
I move that we adopt the writing committee recommendations with Member Earl's review committee's recommendations with Member Earl's input up through page 4,
Okay,
or at least where it says board member amendments.
okay.
I just want to, okay,
Hold on. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, that motion is seconded. Did you need to say anything else, Member Davis, to that motion? Okay. Do we have other people that would like to weigh in on that motion? Go ahead, Member Earl.
so we're accepting their recommendations, but if my recommendations are contrary, how does that work?
They're not, that's what they said.
So my understanding is.
But I'm in the first section. Are we on just page 1 still, or are we on page 2?
Well,
Because I'm looking on page 2, and it said, I would cut I don't know what the practice standards are, and are those not the standards? And if the practice standards are the mathematical practice standards, then I have a concern, right? And I can tell you specifically what that is, but is that what they are? On like this top one, it says, add a synopsis for the practice standards at each grade level. Are the practice standards not the standards, or are those the mathematical practice standards? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
The mathematical practices. So can I just add on that so that I make sure that I'm clear too?
Yeah.
So what I understand in the second section is the first section was no suggested edits, so those are easy.
Yep.
The second part was board member suggested edits, and when the team looked at them, you were okay with moving forward with those. So
okay.
So it's an agreement that that is and then we go to the next harder ones, which are kind of the ones that are, so they're accepting those.
So you're taking on
they're in our minds, they were minor adjustments, and so we were like,
Okay,
we got what the review
do that.
committee
I
was, and then we have the additional part where you're like, if
So
we're
I
gonna
don't need
cut
to
that,
ask for all the clarifications because it would be the
we're gonna
recommendation
do what
coming.
you said, which
Okay.
This is perfect, yes. Okay, so, yes. All right, so then we have a motion on the floor in a second that we accept the second tier of recommendations with board member suggested edits. That's the motion on the floor. And we have a second. Member Lear has a question.
These are not accept or not accept, they're questions. So when do those, you're just
They're
saying?
taking them into
Yes,
account.
we will clarify them and do what you're saying.
Yes, this is the
And
trust the process.
Board
And the
Member
word
Earl's the only
50
one that's
the
giving
writing
you these.
No, there's other ones. It goes
In,
down
on the
into
first
one.
section?
Yes.
On the first section. I get that. I just want to make sure that that you're seeing that and you're accepting them. There's not any that you take issue with. You meaning the,
Yes.
okay.
Artie was going for.
Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted that clarification. Thank you, Molly.
Process part.
Okay, so are you clear? Okay. Do you have a question, Member Klein, about the motion that,
Well, I just don't know how to proceed because none of this is built off of the 97 standards, and that's what I was.
Okay.
And I don't want to build off something that I don't agree with
Okay,
fundamentally. I want to
so-
get back to something
so-
solid.
so
instead
you
of-
have, so you have the right as a board member to make a substitute motion?
So I would make a
Oh,
substitute
hold
motion.
on, hold on. Is a substitute motion in order right now, or do we need to vote because of where we're at? Right now is a substitute? All right, you have the ability to substitute right now.
So my motion would be that the writing committee or the review committee, whoever this is, put together something similar to this. I don't know how to word it for this. Something similar to this based on the 1997 California math standards. So at least if you want to create two different, you already have one, and make another one so that we can compare and see the difference, and because there's been enough input from the field, from parents, as well as board members that would like to see this option as an option, because I can't vote for anything that is built off of this when it's the other that I am looking for.
Okay, so Member Klein, speak this way
Okay.
so that I can,
That the
all right,
review
so,
committee put together something similar to the current document.
so are you
but based
talking
on
about
the
a
California-
crosswalk between the standards
Not
you're
a
referring?
crosswalk, two
Separate documents, okay.
completely different,
Okay.
not something that can be crosswalked. No,
Okay.
I do not want a crosswalk. I want two completely different visions that we can choose from as far as what direction we want to go moving forward for Utah,
Okay.
for math
All right.
in Utah.
So the motion is that the review committee put together something similar to the current document, but based on California 1997 math standards. Do we have a second to that?
Yes.
So there's a motion and a second from Member Bogus. So that, okay. All right. Anybody want to comment to that motion?
I do.
Okay, so we've got in unison, Chair.
Whatever. The guy that used to. I just have a process question. So, I'm very interested in looking at these 1997 standards. And my understanding would be that if this goes into the writing committee for consideration without the motion, we would be recommending that they look at that and do an analysis of everything that we're putting in as recommendation. Again, it's a process question. And so I understand Member Klein's motion would go further. It would ask for something very specific write-up. But I guess I'm asking, if that doesn't pass, are they going to look at this and say, okay, we're going to see what we think about the 97 standards anyway? I'm seeing nods, but okay. It might not be quite
Okay,
as
hold
formal
on.
as what's being requested, but it's in that process if we make the recommendation here.
Okay,
Thank you.
so go ahead and address that item.
So yes, if you all agree when we get to that item to ask. So our assumption was if that one passed, we would bring the 1997. We've already acquired them, which was
Just
challenging
a second,
to
we don't
do.
have everybody's attention.
You've already
We've acquired the 1997 standards, which was difficult. Even California had a difficult time. But we think we have found them, and so the goal would be if board member, excellent, board member Klein's amendment that's later passes, then we would have the writing committee looking at those to develop our next set of
Okay.
standards.
Okay, and we would continue to move forward with what is here, but we would also
Yeah, so we
add
still
that
have like
piece to
clear
it.
standards, and we'd be leveraging
Okay.
the 97
Perfect.
California standards.
Perfect.
I just need a clarification. I'm not sure what the 1997 standards are. There's 1999 standards that are approved. The 97 am I right? The 97 standards were the ones that.
Was it 7 or 9?
It would be 1999. The 97 standards actually were not, those were the pushback because of what went through the 90s where we ended up with all the math wars. It's the 99. So I think we better clarify on here. Is that what we're referencing?
What we found was 97. So if there's a 99 and that's the one we want, please let us know.
All right, Vice Chair Moss.
Sorry, just one more point of clarification. So you have acquired the standards. and
Maybe.
So maybe, I guess there's a question of 97, 99. Okay. So if, I'm trying to get the difference between the recommendation that's on here, among others, to consider the 97 standards along with a bunch of other things, and what Member Klein's motion would do. So the standards are an intact set of standards. I presume the motion is take a look at what that set of standards would be. You've acquired them. Presumably you just bring them forward and say, here they are. And even without that motion, you would be considering how those compare to what you're working on, correct? So either way, we're going to have the 97 or 99 standards and some analysis by the writing committee of how this factors into what else we were thinking about. Is that okay? Thank you. Sorry.
Member Klein? Oh, I'm sorry, Member Reel, and then Member Klein. And then, okay, you got to tell me the order because, yes, you are. All right, I apologize.
So I would just speak in favor of the motion. I think I've received over 100 emails talking about the 1997 math standards out of California. And when we're talking math standards, that's a high number of people interested in math standards. And it's something that comes up in casual conversation up at the Capitol. I think it's something that our public is very interested in. And so I would support the motion so that we can make an informed decision. If the public is greatly interested in that, I think we need to have the information before the board. So I would support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, who was that? Klein.
Okay, so I'm just looking at my motion, and I don't know that it's appropriate to put something similar to the current document because the way the math standards were done back then look very different from what we're doing now. So I would just like an opportunity to vote on the 1997 math standards and adopt those. Well, they're done. They're already done, and they were proven effective. So I would amend my motion to accept the 1997 math standards.
It now belongs to the floor, so you would have to amend it, and it would have to have no objection. So can you state what your amendment would be, how you would change your motion?
That the board adopt the 1997 California math standards.
Okay. Is there an objection to that? Yes. Okay. Then
So
that
go
would
back
be,
to the former
it would be
motion?
that motion that's on the floor, and then we deal with that and then move forward. Member Reel.
I too have gotten a lot of, thank you, Vice Chair Hart. I also have gotten a lot of emails about the 1997 California standards. I did my research. I went through all of the articles, pros, cons, and I do think there are a lot of elements in those standards that we could integrate into our math standards that could be beneficial. Do I think we should copy and paste standards from 2 decades ago, where during that time, while California used those standards, Utah outperformed California in the NAEP every year? And not to mention, currently, with our current math standards, when we were at NASB, we were applauded for our performance in math. And recently, I think we're touring, Lindsay was recently at Stanford, where they were asking her how we do it, how we have students that are doing so well on math compared to the rest of the nation. So I am not willing to go back 20 years. I am, however, willing to take pieces of some of the fundamental math pieces and standards from the 1997 standards and integrate them. But highly, highly discourage us just copying and pasting standards from California where at the same time Utah outperformed those students with our own standards.
Okay, thank you. Member Earl?
Yeah, I agree with that in that I do think there's some conciseness. I don't know if you got my document I sent, and I have other grade levels I did too, where you can compare the two, and there's just a conciseness to language. I think there's some benefit to that. There's benefit the other way too. So I don't think just copying and pasting is the direction to go, but I think that using those key components, I think there's things we can compare and we can learn, and that's what, yeah, well, so it
go
is I don't think they were approved till 99, but maybe they are the 97. Is that, I'm just, sorry, because I've been looking the document. Okay,
so the
I don't know what
97 were approved in 99, so we've clarified that.
Sorry.
No,
I just
that's
wanted
good.
to make sure, because I've been looking at 99 standards, and that's,
We outperformed them from 2000 on, so it was 1999. But I also really believe, having spent a lot of time in a lot of standards meetings, I really believe in the process, and I think it's really important that we stick to that process as well.
Okay, Chair Moss?
I was just going to say the same thing. I very much want to look at these, but I also very much want to see it go through the process. So I'll vote no on this, but I hope we hear something about how these relate to what we've got going and who performed well. And it's a significant part of the discussion when it comes back up through the committee.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. We've commented. We are going to go to a vote now. So the motion on the floor is that the review committee put together something similar to the current document, but based on the California 1997 math standards. Please vote. Member Green, voting is open. Did we lose her?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. All right, the voting is in. That fails with a vote of 12 to 3. The yeses.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
The yeses being Green, Klein, Bogus. All right. Do we have another motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion along the same line, but not confined. My motion would be to review the key components of California's 1999 standards and use as a framework for clear, concise standards for K-12 students in Utah.
Okay, do we have a second? Yes. The second made by Bogus. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Member Klein?
I would support that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Member Lear?
I just want to make sure staff understands what they're being asked to do and if it's doable without creating two different pathways to math standards. You think it's fine? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? It's either straight, it's Norton. I can't tell visually. Go ahead, member.
I don't know if this is a friendly amendment or not, but I'm wondering if we could add on something, and apply as applicable. It's right now it just says review them. But, is that all we're going to do?
I
Just
have
review?
use as a framework for clear, concise standards. It's the conciseness of the standards. So do you want?
I don't know if I want to go clear to framework. I mean, I'd like us to have our own thing, but apply their
Okay.
standards as we see.
As applicable?
How,
Review and apply key components as applicable.
I'm not good at.
Okay, so I'm open. What would you like?
Review and apply? Review
That'd be
and
great.
apply the key
As-
components.
As appropriate.
California's
As appropriate.
1999 standards as appropriate.
There we go. Is there any
Hang
objection
on,
to that?
I'm looking. Yeah.
All right, member Davis, is that your light, please? To
The framework thing got taken off.
Yeah, to the standards for K-12 students in Utah, I just think we do need to put it's applied to. So if you can put.
Well, when it says review and apply the key components of the 1997 California math standards as appropriate, it sounds like we're applying the standards before we go through the writing process. So wouldn't it be consider application or review and consider the key components of the 1997 California math standards as appropriate? Because we're not applying anything yet, right? We're just asking. I just review them and let them know what your opinion is of them.
This may be presumptuous, but I think y'all got the vibe, right? You got the vibe. I think
We're
yeah.
not applying, we're not, adopting the standards, applying the standard.
I think the concern was that if they read it literally, they would simply review them and go, oh, nice, and do not anything with it.
No, bring back their
No, it's the clear and
opinion of
conciseness
them.
of it that needs to
I
be
think
applied.
that's what we're looking for an action verb. That's all.
We're looking for an opinion from the writing committee on the 1997 California Math Standards.
How they,
Yes.
Doable?
Is there any objection to that rewording of this motion? Thank you. Can we please vote? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a clarifying question.
Sure, Member Green.
So are we looking for a review and apply, or are we looking for an opinion? I do see those as two very separate actions.
this works for me.
And if we have to clear enough,
Board Member
maybe
Green,
we
it
just
does
develop
say
that.
apply, not opinion. So is that a clarifying for you?
That is
yeah, I hope how this is moved forward, that they'll understand that we're not maybe looking so much for an opinion as rather how it would apply if we adopted those.
Okay, so what the motion is right now, because what I'm hearing is a unstated objection, I think, is it says right now, review and apply the key components of the 1997 California Math Standards to the standard writing process as appropriate. That is what's on the floor. If someone would like to amend that, please bring an amendment forward.
Or I don't know if this is an amendment or if it's friendly, but review and apply applicable insights to the key components of the 1997 California Math Standards. Because I want to know the insights of the writing committee about the standards.
Is that an amendment you're proposing, or are you just throwing it out
If
there
it's
to
not
see?
friendly, then yes.
It's not
an
friendly, and I don't think it's necessary. I think the review of it, and then they can consider those with the other recommendations that are coming forward and apply as appropriate, just as it says there. Yep.
Then can you do it the way you just said it?
Know what I just said? I think I just read what's up there. I
Review
think.
and consider the key components with all of the other input. Review and consider the key components of 1997 California Math Standards to the standard writing process with all of the public feedback.
Okay, consider applying. I think that leaves it still in that realm.
Okay, if we add, consider applying, we have now included every single word somebody has brought up. I think we're good. I think we got it covered.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. So, Member Booth? Yeah, hold on, you're not on mic. No, he's speaking. I called on him. It's okay.
Vice Chair Hart,
Yes.
I feel like there needs to be just a little clarification on where we're going. We're not even to the writing committee yet.
No.
I mean, and so that's something that in the process, we voted on the process, we've worked on this. I mean, we're way at the beginning, and we've got the review committees, they've been pulled together, but the review committee is not the writing committee. And so what I don't know why we're getting into such detail right now.
Okay,
So that's the
so
question.
what this is the review committee brought forth their recommendations, and we are now talking about those and considering those and adding our clarifications and mulling through those.
That's great.
So that,
To the review committee, back to the review
no,
committee.
it goes to the writing committee. So we are creating, the review committee created their recommendations for process, basically, kind of. And we are adding our flavor to that and sharing it with them. And
And
they
then
are
they will
taking
take it
it
on.
to the writing committee to do the work.
To do what they would normally
The-
do, and
what-
we'll have input along the way,
So
like the
the
process.
problem that we are solving in this, if you were to say, you know, what problem are we solving here, is that we don't want our practitioners to go down the road of writing things only to find out that the board was looking for a different direction. And we have found that that is unfair to our educators who spend so much time. So the process was amended to add a step where the board could talk about the process and the big ideas on the front end, rather than having them do all the work and then find out that, my gosh, they wrote all the standards and now all of a sudden
Would
something
it
else was
be
wanted.
presumptuous of us at this point, with the limited work that we have done, to dictate to them how they approach their process?
That's why we need to carefully consider the recommendations and make sure that, that we are clearly articulating the big rocks and not micromanaging the small rocks. So that's where,
Okay.
that's what we're debating right now.
I'm just asking these questions so that we don't lose the great benefit of amazing mathematicians and teachers of
Right.
leaders of learning in the math field that we have here congregated and
Yes.
that will be in the near future
And-
congregated.
And this might be a little presumptuous, and please, I would love someone to correct me. Educators want to do the work, but they want to know the lane in which they need to drive.
Great.
We are helping them form the lane so that they can do their best work.
I'm good. Thank you.
Is that okay? All right. So what we have on the floor is a motion to review and consider applying the key components of the 1997 California Math Standards to the standard writing process as appropriate. It's been seconded, it's been debated, it's open for voting.
I actually have a question, please. Vice Chair Hart,
Member Green?
I'm so sorry. Can you not hear me? I was just trying to get a question in before, and it was just
I
to
saw your light, but I
clarify-
didn't hear.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I heard you very faintly say, "Can you hear me?" So can you just yell it?
Yeah, I'll speak a little louder. I haven't changed locations, so it just be bad service. But I just want to clarify to this motion. It looks like it's passing, but was it, to the maker of the motion, was that a friendly addition to add consider applying? And if it is, how will we know if they've considered it? It seems like review and apply would give us tangible
was a
results to.
friendly because there was no objection. And I do believe, and I hope I'm not, please correct me if I'm wrong, in the
object that
material that they
only be-
forward, it will be apparent, and because they understand what the board is asking for, and so it wouldn't help them not to give us clarity in that way. Would you like to add to that? No, Thronson.
Yes, thank you. So step 6 requires our staff to bring you bi-monthly progress submissions. So as part of that progress, we will say, during this committee meeting, these ones, we've been looking at the 1997 standards. So you'll have some evidence that these things are happening. Or like we reviewed the recommendations and we've been pulling these pieces together. Like that will happen in the bi-monthly progress updates from staff.
Okay, so the answer, did you hear that, Member Green? There's regular reporting back.
Okay, as long as we have the
Are you
opportunity
prepared to vote?
I don't know if you can still hear me. I'm so sorry.
We can't hear you. Can you text somebody? Oh, we can't. She's got to say it. You gotta scream it, girl.
I'm a no.
Okay, I hear you. It's a no. All right, so by a vote of 14 to 1, with the no vote being Member Green, that motion passes. Do we have another motion for the floor? Member Vice Chair Earl.
Yeah, I know. And
did we?
Oh, yeah, we did.
I always skip over the original motion. I thought that one passed. Yeah, we didn't. We haven't voted on that? Okay. All right, so we are returning to the original motion, which really wasn't, that should have been a substitute. Anyway, the motion on the floor is that the board adopt the review committee's recommendation with Member Earl's input up to page 4. Did we already have a second? Yes, we had a second. Do we have more discussion to that motion? That means that. No, we're just going step by step. We're doing them chunk by chunk. The first chunk were the ones that weren't at all contested. The next chunk were the ones that were easy for the committee to say, yeah, we'll do that, no problem, because a lot of them just added clarity. So that's where we're at now. Next up, we'll discuss the ones that are different from what the review committee, significantly enough that we need to make a decision on them. You have a substitute motion? Okay. It's up.
Okay. So I would move that we postpone voting on any of the math standards process until we hear back from staff or from the review committee, whoever, with the information that we just passed in the previous motion.
Is there a second to that? Second from Member Bogus. Do we have any? No, it's motion to postpone. Can you substitute? What's it? It's just a motion. It's not a substitute. It's just a motion. I know, but can you put a substitute after a motion to postpone? Where's that little chart? We have. What can you? What is allowed after a motion to postpone parliamentary?
A recommendation.
You can't, it's not debatable, it's just postponing? Okay, so you can't adjust that kind of motion, you can simply debate and vote on it? Mend it? But it would still be a motion to postpone. You cannot substitute a different motion. All right, you cannot substitute a different motion. It will remain a motion to postpone. You can adjust the conditions of the postponement. So I see no lights except I do, no. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. You ready? Okay, I thought I stalled enough.
That's what I thought, but what is highlighted is different, so I wanted to.
Yeah. So what you are voting on, and that's a good clarification, Member Klein made the motion to postpone, that the board postpone voting on any of the math standards process until staff reports back on about the 1997 California math standards considerations. Now, we have already voted, so those things would remain. It would just halt at this point, okay? So let's be real clear about that. All right, are you ready? Oh, sorry, I didn't see your light.
Because I didn't push it just now. I'm just curious again, is this something that works for staff? Do you need to move more quickly on this, or would you typically? Or rather than waiting and reviewing the California standards, Lindsay is saying.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
So I'm going to clarify for our understanding, what you asked for that was passed so far was to bring the 1997 standards to the writing committee. What is being proposed in the motion now is to bring it back to the review committee to make more recommendations for the board's consideration based on what they find.
No,
That's how it's.
What she's saying is she doesn't want to make any more decisions tonight on the rest of the packet until the material from 1997
Goes to whom?
So you're saying it. Yeah. Do we have a writing committee?
Yeah.
Do we?
We're still working on that
Okay.
development.
I just want to know if that works for staff. I don't want to throw something at them that says,
I
we've never
understand.
done it that way.
I understand.
I didn't know who it should go to. They put staff on there, but who would it go to?
The recommendations generally would go to the writing committee next. So the review committee has, in our minds, in the process, has done their work.
Okay.
Now it's for them, because it's the writing committee who's going to actually take the 97 standards and say, here's how we think we would incorporate those.
Okay.
So you could have either proceed on. The nice thing is the writing committee can get started with all of the things, and we don't have to come back to you and do the rest of these. But we could also come back and report to you and start with the 1997, but have all the recommendations in place. And we could report on the writing committee's impressions of incorporating the 1997 or earlier in the process. We can make that its own a standards and assessment committee bring back, or we can postpone, whatever is best for you. Obviously, every month we delay is another month on the process. This already takes over 2 years to get standards through. So that's the only thing. I'm always cautious on the timing. We've had the current standards for a while. It'll be over a decade by the time this is done. And I know there's some urgency by different board members to move on to new standards, but it just delays the process. That's the only thing.
Is it appropriate to put staff reports back, or is it appropriate to say the writing committee? Staff's fine. Okay. All right. Other questions? Did that answer your question? Okay. Member Klein.
I just think we should wait to continue the discussion until we have that in front of us.
Okay.
I don't think it's wise to move forward on stuff on this when it is lacking what we've asked for.
Okay. Any others?
Yeah, I want to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't agree with this process. And maybe because I've spent a lot of time over the last several months looking at doing a thorough analysis, considering everybody's comments, considering just things going forward. Anyways, I don't think this prolongs the long time before we can actually get new standards. I'm not sure what this is even going to take, maybe 6 months or something. I don't know. We've got to put a writing committee together, and then we start the process, right? I'm concerned that this becomes lengthy instead of to where we need to be headed. So that's what I'm going to speak to there.
Okay. Seeing no other lights, are you ready for us to vote? Okay, voting is live. Voting is live. Member Green for the motion to postpone. If you can see it, can you share your vote?
I'm a yes.
Okay. We're waiting on one more. Oh, he's stepped out. Okay, the vote is 10 noes to 4 yeses. The 4 yeses would be Member Carey, Member Green, Member Bogus, Member Klein. All right, so we are back to Member Davis's motion. And after we do this, I'm going to ask that the pizza is now cold. So go get your pizza and come right back. We're going to have a working lunch so the whole world gets to watch us eat. Dinner, I mean. So let's get through this vote, and then we have 7 minutes, no longer, to get your pizza and get back. All right, so the motion on the floor is that the board adopt the review committee's recommendation with member Earl's input up to page 4. Motion's been made, seconded, debated. Do you have it ready? All right, let's put it up. Member Green, the vote is open for the motion that's highlighted on the screen.
No.
No? I heard a no. She had to change devices. I'm just repeating. I'm just repeating what she says so that it's. Okay, we're at 13. We're missing 2. We're missing 1, actually. Member Straight stepped out. Who are we missing? Oh, okay. That passes 11-3. The noes are Member Bogus, Member Green, Member Klein. So that passes. All right. We'll take just a 7-minute break. I promise no longer.